Good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited to see all of these wonderful smiling, mostly smiling, some stressed, faces here with us this afternoon. This is our third annual event celebrating user experience here at UCI and around Orange County. And what I like best about this event is that we don't just celebrate all kinds of things related to user experience, but we particularly celebrate our amazing Masters in Human-Computer Interaction and Design students here at UCI. So thank you to all of them. I want to give them a big round of applause. This is the last thing they do before they graduate. For those of you who don't know me, I am Jillian Hayes. Until about a week ago, I was the faculty director of this program, this master's degree. And it is bittersweet for me. I am no longer the faculty director of this program, but they were kind enough to let me MC this one last event. So thank you all for joining us, for celebrating our students. What you are about to see for the next about 3 hours is the culmination of 6 months of work from 34 incredibly passionate, talented, bright, energetic young students and their very dedicated mentors, partners, and supporters who are both engaged with the students and more broadly with UCI here. I'm very happy we're able to host this event here this year. This is the newly named UCI Beal Center for Applied Innovation. Thank you to the Beals for their excellent, wonderful gift that's allowing us to do so much to bridge what we do in the academy, in the classroom, in our labs, with what's happening in what is now a great center for innovation, entrepreneurship, and technical development here in Orange County. So welcome to the Cove. This is one of the last events in this space. Part of the Beal gift is that we get to move to a bigger and better space so we can make this even bigger next year. And as I said, this is the culmination of 6 months of work, so I'd like to invite up Darren Denenberg, who is the professor who has been shepherding these students and these amazing projects along over the last 6 months, tell you a little bit about them, and then introduce our first student team. Thank you, Darren.
I'm not mic'd off, so I have to stand behind the podium here, but thank you everybody for being here. It's really great to see all of you, our partners, our families, our friends. This is a great event, as Jillian has said, because it's the culmination of what I'm sure none of our students would say was a very stressful and sleep-deprived and involved year. And I have spent the last 6 months with all of them. And for me especially, it's a very proud day because there were many hurdles, there were many triumphs, there were many concerns, there were many meetings, many of the students traveled, they did a ton of work, sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't, and yet here they all are to show you the progress that they've made and the things that they've created. And they really have earned this day to show you, to brag about all the great things that they've done and the great things that they've accomplished. And so it's great that we're all here to witness that. And so I would like to invite up our very first group from Obsidian.
Good afternoon, everyone. We worked with Obsidian Security for our Capstone project. Welcome to our presentation, Security Never Sleeps. So let me introduce ourselves. I'm Christine Benedict. I worked as the product manager for this project. We have Cassandra who is our UX designer, and Greg Pewitt, who is our UX researcher. From Obsidian, we worked with Sean Borman, VP of Product, and Alfonso Martinez, the lead designer. So today we're going to introduce you to the world of the security professional, our research, how we turn that research into a design, our final solution, and the steps forward that Obsidian can use as they move into development. So we're going to begin with a very basic little survey of the audience. So please raise your hand if your office that you work in is on a secured network.
Now raise your hand if you have security software installed on your office computer.
All right, keep them up if you use in your office either Google Drive, Dropbox, Office 365, SharePoint, Gmail, any cloud-based service. What if I were to tell you that having a secured network isn't enough? Having security software isn't enough? The Chief Information Security Officer at Cisco put it best. Nowadays, hackers do not break in, they log in. In 2019, the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report showed that almost 65% of attacks use either stolen credentials or phishing. And while these threats are very serious, what's even bigger is that the fact that attacks typically are measured in minutes from the attacker's standpoint, and the response by the company is measured in days, weeks, or even months. So where exactly does that leave us with Obsidian Security? Obsidian Security has built a platform to enable security professionals to much more easily triage, contain, and resolve these threats. They have built a system that uses machine learning to track and understand user behavior and generate alerts for security teams when users behave abnormally. Using this capability, they can reduce the time it takes for a company to identify an attack and much more quickly understand what data is impacted by that attack. So, what exactly did Obsidian want from us? They came to us with a fairly simple request to make them a mobile application. However, for our team, this was a fairly big ask since none of us on the team had any experience in security whatsoever. Before the day was out, though, on the very first day we talked to them, we did settle on a rough timeline that we stuck to throughout the entire project. It breaks down like following. First, we wanted to decide what we wanted to accomplish. Then we began a discovery phase where we needed to learn everything that we needed to do in order to complete our project, at which point we began to iterate on a design for the mobile application, which we tested and improved twice during the project. Our final deliverables were a high-fidelity prototype, as well as a set of recommendations for Obsidian themselves. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the research that we did in this project. We had a set of goals for the different phases in our project. First, during the discovery phase, our primary goals, like I said before, were primarily to understand cybersecurity as well as the life of a security professional and how that translates into a mobile device. Second, during our user testing, we wanted to learn how security professionals used our mobile application, what was working in the application and what wasn't, and also the overall information architecture for our device. Finally, during the second round of user testing, we focused much more on usability, which combined with general feedback that we got from the application directly, we could produce recommendations for Obsidian. So how exactly did we do all of this? Primarily, we talked to the customers. We conducted semi and unstructured interviews with 5 Obsidian customers, as well as 2 security professionals throughout our project, and our user testing was conducted using moderated user testing, using a think aloud protocol. The first round of user testing, we allowed users a much more free chance to kind of explore the application in order for us to gather a lot of feedback about our application. However, the second round was focused much more on usability specifics, where we requested that the people focused much more on a task so we could produce useful recommendations for Obsidian. In order to figure out what exactly is important and what isn't, we used an affinity diagramming process during our research phase, which produced the key findings you can see behind us. The 2 that I really like to highlight are the first 2 listed there, which is the morning processes and the always on capability. And that was basically, users always would tell us the first thing they did right in the morning, waking up, is they would reach for their phone and check to see if they got any emails about either security incidents or security threats that happened during the last night. That also ties directly into the feeling of being always on, which is a feeling that security professionals tend to have, where they always need to be able to work, and they always need to be able to respond to possible threats. Actually, we had one customer tell us about how when he took vacations, he'd actually go to places with low cell signal, specifically to get away from his phone and not be able to get called. Through our key findings, we produced ourselves 3 proto-personas, which were used to help guide our primary design decisions. Here we have the Chief Information Security Officer. Then we have the manager for a security team. And finally, the proto persona for a security analyst. The security analyst was our primary demographic for this application, and we built it with this user's needs at the forefront of our minds. The security analyst has two primary user flows when they're doing their triage work, which were represented here with a basic abbreviation of their standard flow. Either they go threat hunt, they get notified of an alert, they sign in and look at the information that's presented in order to do something about it, or they go threat hunting, which is where a user would open the app, explore it, and find information themselves directly rather than being guided to it by a notification. And if they find anything concerning, they can then take some sort of action. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Cassandra, and she can talk to you a little bit about our designs.
Thank you. So this is our prototype. How did we get here? I'm going to show you how. So for our initial wireframes, we designed in full color. And to alleviate bias during user testing, we reduced to grayscale so that both our team and our testers would not be influenced by color. For the final iteration, we created a high-fidelity clickable prototype. Our PM, Christine, created a PRD, which is a product requirements document, and that has specifications that align with the primary goals of each of our proto personas. For all our design iterations, we focus on the following features: secure login, alerts, filter and sort, user profile, settings, and reports. I'm now going to show you how these features played out for all our wireframes and clickable high-fidelity prototype. I will also explain how each of these features changed and evolved during user testing. All right, so first up, secure login. Here's our initial wireframes. When someone got a push notification, they would then have to securely sign in to the mobile app in order to see the rest of the alert details. For our user testing, we learned that our users expressed they wanted to have a two-factor authentication to make the app more secure. Therefore, we decided to add Face ID, fingerprint, as well as an authenticator. We also added a two-step verification for users who forgot their passwords. And for security professionals, they have a lot to manage. So next up, I'm going to talk about alerts. This was the section that we spent the most time on because we learned that security analysts evaluate multiple sources of information, determining if an alert represents a legitimate security threat. We conducted a comprehensive analysis of all the information we plan to display on each screen. Therefore, as you can see, it's very text-heavy. There's no icons in it whatsoever. That caused a little bit of problems in the sense that you had to scroll a lot before you got to the actual action buttons. But we really wanted to focus on the information itself because we weren't totally sure what security analysts actually wanted or didn't. Therefore, for our prototype, we gave it a total makeover. We kept asking a lot of questions and got the most feedback during user testing. We squeezed a lot of information into our alert details screen, which has a lot of icons, as you can see. We wanted our users to be able to take in a lot of information without getting overwhelmed and flustered. On our alert details screen, we created tabs that opened up into cards. Therefore, everything fits neatly on the screen without the need to scroll. During user testing, we created the most of Obsidian's clients already used a third-party software for assigning and passing tickets. We decided to remove this feature. Next up, we have filter and sort. We learned that during discovery that our users all worked very differently and like to customize the way they view information. So we created a filter and sort feature to meet that need. For our initial filter and sort feature, it left a lot of users a bit overwhelmed. So for our current iteration, it has a much cleaner, cataloged, and hierarchical menu for selecting and sorting filter criteria. It also enables security professionals to hunt for patterns within data categories that might indicate a larger imminent threat. Next up, we have user profile and settings. So for this stage, the user profile section and the settings were both separated. You can get to the user profile and the hi icon with the face in it at the top, and then at the bottom is where you would get settings. During our research phase, some users expressed they didn't like getting a ton of push notifications. So we wanted to make sure that we had a notification settings feature to let users have control over the frequency, number, and method of notifications for each of the 5 security alert levels. During our prototype phase, we learned, actually I should say in our wireframe phase, we learned that many companies use a global directory or single sign-on, which limits a user's ability to edit their own data. So for this section, we actually locked it completely, so people couldn't actually do anything with their user profile but view it. We also moved the settings out of the footer menu and into the user profile section. We also streamlined the notification settings because our user testing indicated that it was far too complex. We also added a sync setting so users could set one security alert level and then synchronize it with the rest and be done. Finally, we have our reports section. We created this section initially because during our discovery phase, we learned that chief security officers wanted to be able to view the health of their organization. As you can see, it's pretty bare bones. We just really wanted to see what they wanted. During user testing, we learned that the reports screen had mixed reviews during the whole phase of testing. So for each high-level security executive in meetings, they really like to have something to show on their phone and be able to have a conversation, where analysts were not so keen about it. They thought it was a cool feature, but for them, they have to use sometimes 2 screens, as well as be able to see things on a lot of monitors because they just need to see a lot of data. So for them, it was hit or miss. We decided to make the graphs and charts interactive by tapping. And for example, on our alerts status, the blue donut right there, it allows users to pre-filter alert settings by status. So if you clicked on one of those areas, you'd be able to actually see all the alerts listed just for that status. We also created a service connection status feature to show that the Obsidian platform is actively receiving expected data from all the connected services. And with that, I'm going to show you now how we put that all together in a fun video.
Okay, so now we're going to look a little into the future. The next question is, where do we go from there? We provided Obsidian with 11 feature recommendations and usability improvements that they could take going forward into development for this application. The main takeaways can be grouped into 4 categories: alert routing and personnel management, alert watch list, customization, and UI clarity. So first, for alert routing and personnel management, not every security analyst needs every notification at every point in time. Often companies are grouped, their security analysts are grouped into service-specific groupings or potentially into an on-call, off-call scheduling system. So we suggested that notifications get routed based on this on-call status or based on the service in which it had occurred. The secondary effect of this is it helps fight that always-on burnout that many security professionals encounter as they work through years in this industry. So next up, we have the alert watch list feature. One of the things that we kept getting in feedback was that users wanted a simple way to return to previously viewed notifications or alerts. And the action of liking, following, or favoriting is something that many of us are familiar with from other applications. So using this action to create a short list so that security analysts could return to the alerts that they had been previously working on or that they were currently working on was a great way to have this happen. Additionally, it was good for managers because they could keep track of the status of particularly worrying alerts. For customization, as we have said before, companies and individuals use really unique processes during their triage. Companies and individual users had expressed interest in potentially having in-app messaging versus a third-party app such as Slack or Teams. Requiring comments when marking an alert as resolved was also something that varied per user and per company. Obsidian-specific ticketing systems versus an integration with a third-party application such as Jira, ServiceNow, or Zendesk was another feature that could be customized in the future. For UI clarity, during our final usability testing, we identified places where our UI could be clearer and more intuitive. Notification settings are likely still too complex and should integrate more with native phone options. Opening and closing some menus needed a more obviously interactive button to press. And having a consistent short naming convention for these alerts would help users identify high priority alerts faster. So this project started with a very simple request: make me a mobile app, please. Over the past 6 months, we took that request with all of our research to design this high-fidelity prototype. Creating a mobile extension of Obsidian's desktop platform is a solid step towards a more flexible and customizable user environment and helps analysts respond to potential threats in a very timely manner. As Obsidian Security continues to develop the holistic experience of their platform, we look forward to seeing how they will integrate our research discoveries, mobile designs, and recommendations into their product. It's been a pleasure working with the Obsidian team, and we wish them all the best as their product continues to evolve.
Fantastic work to the team. Don't leave. If we could have our partners from Obsidian come up. And we want to thank you for being such a great partner for our team here. And if we can do a quick picture with them, that would be great. And I'm just looking around realizing I don't know where our photographer is. Mark, can you take a quick picture? Yeah, like legit with the phone. I'm not kidding. I don't know where our photographer went, but I just realized I don't see him. So thank you so much, and great way to start off. The Hulu team, if you guys want to come start getting up while we're doing this. Those of you standing awkwardly in the back, this is now I'm going to have to be Professor Jillian. We have a whole row of seats up here up front. Please come on in, join us. We won't bite.
Happy birthday, Dad.
And I also should have announced before we started, so I'll say it now. All of the teams will be around. We'll have food, drinks, both grown-up drinks and otherwise, after the presentations. We really encourage you to stay. The students will have posters and other things, so you can ask any questions that you might have. All right, next up, we have Hulu. Any Hulu users out in the audience? All right, we got a few. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Thanks, guys.
So hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it. We are Team Handmaidens, and we will be presenting a product. We have some fans out there. Presenting a product we designed for Hulu called VX Home. Before we start, we wanted to tell you a little bit about ourselves. So let's kick it off, Cindy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy. I'm a software engineer turned designer. I am a Southern girl at heart, moved from Atlanta up to DC, and then now I'm based out of LA. And I am the night owl of this group.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa. I'm originally from upstate New York, but I just recently moved to Dayton, Ohio, and I'm a graphic designer turned UX product designer.
Hi everyone, I'm Tara Swan. I am currently in Seattle, Washington, where I am a design researcher at Microsoft. Before that, I was in New York City for 8 years, working at NBC Universal, among others. And before that, I was in the Bay Area for quite a while, working for Yahoo and Flickr.
Hi everybody, I'm Tiffany. I'm born, raised, and currently reside in San Jose, California. I lived in New York for a short period of time where I decided I liked warm weather and sunshine. I'm a fashion designer who transitioned into UX for product design. I'm actually finishing up an internship as a UX designer at SAP, and I am the type A of this group, as the ladies can attest to. All right, so our client. Our client is Hulu. For those of you who don't already know, Hulu is an on-demand video service, most commonly known for shows like The Simpsons and The Handmaid's Tale. Hulu has currently over 3,000 employees, won 8 Emmys, and has over 28 million subscribers. Interesting fact, in March of this year, Walt Disney Company actually acquired 21st Century Fox, giving Disney majority stake of Hulu. And this will make more sense as we continue. Hulu has 5 core values. We start with the viewer, we think big, we embrace fun, we are one team, and we are all hooligans. We really took these core values to heart when designing this product, especially the one about embracing fun. We also wanted to take a minute to introduce our lovely stakeholders. Our main point of contact was David Resnick. He's a product design manager at Hulu, and he's also a fellow alumni of ICS. David is here with us today. Say hi, David. I know, I'm putting you on the spot. We also worked closely with other stakeholders, Craig Cleaver, who is the senior manager of viewer experience, and Annette Duke, she's the information analyst, and our point of contact for anything and everything that has to do with our users. So, this is VX Express. It's a site built on a Salesforce platform. Salesforce is a customer relationship management platform. This is where users, also known as viewer experience advocates, or VXAs as we call them, they can clock in and out to log their shift time. They are also supposed to be reading about known issues, or KIs. This will help them prepare for the day to help with incoming questions and calls from viewers like you and me. And the original vision for VX Express was to have it as a one-stop shop of information. But an internal survey found that 20% of VXAs use VX Express as a resource for information, while the other 80% only use it to clock in and out of their shifts. Our opportunity was to apply HCI research and design processes to redesign VX Express through understanding and discovering what the agents actually needed, defining how VX Express could best support and serve their workflow and their human needs, and to ship a product that VXAs actually want to use. To do this, we used the double diamond model. We felt that this model was the most applicable for our process. There are 4 stages to the double diamond model. It's discover, define, develop, and deliver. We will go over this more in detail as we go through our presentation. So, show of hands, how many of you have had to call customer service support before? All right, that's a lot of you. Now, how many of you have called because you're really happy about a product? Yeah. Most people who call customer support are calling because they're having an issue with a product. More often than not, the caller is frustrated, and what ends up happening is you take it out on the person on the other end. Our user is that customer service agent on the other end, and this is what they have to deal with on a daily basis.
So at Hulu, support for more than 28 million subscribers is handled by a team of 400 VXAs based in San Antonio, Texas. They have a really important job to do. They are often customers' only human contact with the company. They influence users' experiences, and they represent the Hulu brand. We conducted initial research to develop empathy for our users, to understand their work and their tools, and uncover their human needs. We determined that maintaining a high level of customer satisfaction requires motivating agents to perform at a consistently high level when their work is closely managed and measured. Based on our research, we realized that VXAs could be described as frontline workers because they deal directly with customers. They also have a unique set of workplace dynamics in that they perform emotional labor on behalf of Hulu, and which is to say, they need to manage their emotions in the process of performing their work well. They also require practical or technical aptitude and the ability to write or communicate well. Frontline workers as a group do work that is often shift-based, has somewhat limited career growth, and experiences higher turnover compared to other types of office workers.
So early on, we knew we needed to establish what the needs of our users were. Combining our lit review with the specific needs of the Hulu VXA workforce, we arrived at this set of needs that would guide our work: training, expert knowledge, emotional support, motivation, and opportunity to advance. We created an archetype of the agents that we'd talk to. We were struck by commonalities we'd seen across the agents we talked to: a sense of wholesomeness, eagerness to help, and what makes them happiest, helping and connecting with their customers. Because it sounded like agents were happy with their overall, we knew we wanted to dig into areas where we could expedite their workflows while keeping them satisfied within their work lives. Once our research and interviews were complete, we began to synthesize our findings and collaborated remotely on brainstorming sessions. Pink represents what people liked, blue represents what people didn't like, and green represents ideas that participants gave us. These suggested ideas gave us an initial landscape into what our agents need and want. From our affinity mapping, we distilled 3 key themes. These are technology, communication, and information. Our mapping pointed to a myriad of technologies, communication channels, and a wide variety of information that agents needed to memorize and make use of. VX Express attempted to solve these problems, but very few used it as intended. Our next step was to ideate some design concepts quickly. We remotely took part in a Crazy 8 design brainstorm. What we found was that we had some similar ideas that reinforced certain directions, and we were able to combine ideas.
So our ultimate goal is to provide better customer service, and businesses have found that putting employees first and customers second actually improved customer satisfaction. We began to see a design solution that we call whole human productivity. And this is a new definition of productivity. It goes beyond efficiency measures and customer satisfaction scores. It's about supporting workers on the front line, building productivity software that is more than task flow and includes how people think, feel, and learn. And this is how we came up with supporting an agent's need to stay in control, support their emotional and physical wellness, and foster personal growth. It was time to test concepts with our users. We created wireframes around a single source of information, having wellness tools to maintain their personal energy, and benefiting from their growth as subject matter experts. We would test these concepts to gain insight into whether VXAs would understand and want to use the product or feature, and it helped inform our direction of ideas on a high level. We engaged 6 participants in 3 co-creation exercises. The first was evaluating concepts using these low-fidelity screens. The second was sorting existing and new concepts into suggested buckets to see which things they grouped together. And the third was walking through a day in the life and selecting concepts to build out a timeline on when and how those concepts might be used. As a team, we flew to San Antonio to meet VXAs in person and conduct our tests. The feedback was really informative. Several of our concepts were real winners, and some were not. Our key findings included that the VX Express should be a single source of up-to-date information from across the many communication sources VXAs checked on a daily basis. The agents were universally excited by wellness tools to support their personal energy. And finally, our expertise concept was not ready for prime time, which was a good learning for us.
So we used our research insights to guide the direction of our designs. So once we finalized the user flow, we began creating mid-fidelity wireframes to mock out key information and interactions. And because we were integrated into Hulu's overall product development cycle and heavily collaborated with stakeholders, we really used this step of the process to look towards cohesion, catching edge cases, and getting further clarity on our vision for the end product. So without further ado, this is what VX Express looked like before redesign. As you can see, it's very basic in formatting. It contains hyperlinks that did not pass accessibility, and it was hard for users to really parse. So the first theme we addressed involved giving our customer representatives agency and control within their work. Our solution, renamed VX Home, is intended to help our agents stay in control by reducing immediate visual load and using imagery to break up text, making information both easier to read and comprehend. So we chose a dark background because it passed accessibility and it follows the entertainment paradigm of focusing on showcasing and featuring content similarly to the way Netflix and Spotify features movies and artists. This offered us the opportunity to showcase Hulu's content in an easily digestible format that was also on brand for an entertainment company. In addition, VXAs sit at their computers for their entire shift. So during final user testing, all users remarked that they were really thankful for the dark theme because it really put a lot of less strain on their eyes. The second theme we addressed involved supporting VXA's daily workflows and personal growth. This is just some examples of the rest of the platform that we built out to streamline workflows so that everyday tasks remain simple and efficient, and that customer service agents are recognized and celebrated for their work. This falls in line with our product principles of increasing collaboration and meaningful engagement, multi-channel integration with external tools, simplicity, and efficiency. And the last theme we addressed revolved around emotional and physical wellness of our agents.
The crux of our design was the integration of the whole human. Thus, one of the most important solutions we developed was this wellness feature. This feature supports how agents are feeling throughout the day, the course of their shift, and alerting them to do breathing exercises or stretching exercises. Breathing exercises help them with their emotional aspect of their day, while stretching helps with the physical. Users can customize the frequency and types of breathing exercises that they want to do, and they can see what exercises are currently trending and set goals for themselves to take control of their work experience. Here's an example of alert that pops up during an agent's shift to remind them to stretch. With calls rolling in at all times, agents often forget to take the time to move and step away from their computer. This feature helps remind them and alerts them only based on what they prefer. Here's an example of a breathing prompt that users will see. When the wellness feature was presented to VXAs during testing, several people noted that this feature was better than just having it on a personal device, such as your Apple Watch or your iPhone. Including it as a feature as part of a software made them feel like Hulu really cared about their well-being, which was really important to us. In the future, this section could integrate with Hulu's various wellness incentives and showcase Hulu's own talent. For example, some VXAs are actually yoga teachers on the side. They could submit their own videos and for the wellness feature. This increases overall engagement while also making it more fun for the VXAs, which is a core value of the brand. For the final round of user testing, we validated our high-fidelity prototypes to make sure that no major changes needed to be made. So how did people feel about what we designed? We found that this version really resonated with both stakeholders and the VXAs. Users said that everything just felt naturally intuitive. VXAs also noted that they really liked how the information was easier to digest compared to the old version, and that the new version gave them a sense of trust. 5 out of 5 VXAs who tested this new version reported it was better than the old. One VXA said, "It's beautiful. I think it puts value on personal contribution and leads to more engagement with each other." Craig, the senior manager of viewer experience and key stakeholders, said, "This is sexy." As a team, we felt that including software that supports productivity it's more than about task flow and efficiency. It's also about how people learn and feel. As Yor once said, a little consideration, a little thought for others makes all the difference. We hope that what we have done here will make a difference for Hulu and their viewer experience advocates. But before we finish, we should all take a second to do a wellness exercise. So this is called the 4-7-8 breathing exercise. At my count, you will inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8. Are we ready? All right. And inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great job. How does it go backwards? Oh, duh. My bad. All right. Oops.
All right, so another great presentation. If we could have David and anyone else from Hulu come on up. Thank you very much. And still don't know what the photographer is, so we're going to use me. If you guys can, and SAP, you guys can come on up while we're doing this. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. All right, thank you. Where are they? Oh, they're there. Okay, great job. Little piece of user experience that none of you are experiencing, but I am. I needed that meditative moment because there's a lovely clock right here that starts counting in red when they've gone over. We've seen a lot of red so far, so I'm having a moment. So thank you for having us a helpful breathing exercise. Okay, on to our next awesome team they're working with a local partner here in Orange County, SAP. So go ahead.
And thank you for coming to our presentation. Today, we are presenting our Capstone project titled Care Coach, a product that can help hospitals scale preventive diabetes care. As Jillian mentioned, this is the culmination of 6 months of work from March until today in partnership with SAP Innovation Center Network. For the sake of time, we have distilled 6 months of work into 5 key sections relevant to the people here today. I will introduce our team and our client, walk us through the problem, introduce our solution, Care Coach, and demo our prototype. Our team consists of 5 members: Annie, myself, Kathleen, Robin, Saurabh, and Safana. We are Team Sapiens. Our name is a nod to SAP and the Homo sapiens species as we incorporate human-centered research and design methods into our process. Our client is SAP Innovation Center Network. SAP is a large multinational company focused on enterprise tech solutions, which is business to business. ICN is a small team within SAP that's based here in Newport Beach. And our point person is Davidson Young, who, as many of you know, is an alumni of this program. Say hi, Davidson. ICN, Innovation Center Network, asked our team to explore enterprise tech solutions in healthcare. Our team explored many different problems within the healthcare space before focusing on preventive diabetes care, and Robin will explain why.
So based on our secondary and primary research, we found that there's growing diabetes epidemic in the US. There are 30.3 million Americans suffering from diabetes in 2017. And according to ADA, this number will grow to 54.9 million Americans by 2030. That's an increase of 81% in little over a decade. And 90 to 95% of these people have type 2, and T2 is preventable. When we look at the cost of managing diabetes, that number is also growing in the US. In 2017, the cost of diabetes care was $327 billion, and the number will grow to $622 billion by year 2030. That's an increase of 90%. So if we were to imagine what that means in terms of dollars, the cost of diabetes will equal to 34th largest GDP in the world, which is bigger than an economy of Denmark. So we had to ask ourselves, could a user-centered design help us find answers to the diabetes challenge? And to find answers, we explored our hypothesis and dove deep into our background research. We conducted interviews, defined our personas and journey map, and during our design sprint, we created a storyboard, ideated our product ideas, and developed information architecture, user flow, and mid-fidelity wireframes. And during in our final phase, we created a high-fidelity prototype, and with that high-fidelity prototype, we conducted user testing, and based on user feedback, we were able to improve on our designs and make a final delivery. And now Saurabh will take us through our research.
Sure. Thank you, Robin. So like Robin was pointing out, we carried out a lot of research, but the good news is we'll not bore you with all of it. We'll talk about the most important things. We essentially spoke with 4 kinds of people. We spoke with doctors who are actually interacting with diabetes patients every day. We also spoke with hospital analysts who really know how to optimize efficiency of a hospital. It was interesting to listen to them because they look at hospital not as a care center, but as a system that needs to be optimized, so it's a different world altogether. We also spoke with patients, of course, because they are going through this problem and it's vital for them to come out of it or cope with it. And nurses are also in the forefront. So those were the 4 people that we spoke with, and we spoke with them at different stages of the research. So there was one part which was trying to understand the problem, and the later part of this presentation you will see when we are testing the solution, we also spoke with these people. So I'll talk about the first part first. And this is one of the biggest learning from all these interactions that we have had, that diabetes is a kind of condition where prevention is the only cure, because once you have the condition, it's already too late. But the interesting thing about focusing on people who have not got it first, which are people which are called pre-diabetics, these are people who have higher risk of diabetes because they are having constantly high blood glucose levels. 1 in 3 Americans is a pre-diabetic. Now that is a huge number, but the good news is that they can actually be prevented from getting diabetes by simple corrections in their behavior and lifestyle. For example, eating healthy things, more physical activity, less stress, more rest, stuff like that. And if you do that well enough, you can actually reduce the risk by as much as 50%, 58%. Now think about this. Robin shared a number which was running into hundreds of billions of dollars of diabetes-related costs. If we can shrink that number by 58% by just taking care of these people in time, we'll be doing a huge service to the healthcare system and to all those people who could be suffering from it. So that is the first thing that we learned. The second thing that we learned is that diabetes is a high-touch disease. Now, if you like candies, or if you like sweet, or if you like something which is greasy, it's not easy to give it up. You cannot just ask people to stop doing it and expect them to change. If somebody has grown up eating rice, they will always love to eat rice. You cannot change that overnight, right? So if you are trying to change behavior, you really need constant engagement. You really need to engage with these people all the time, which requires high touch. And it's a huge challenge because the total number of endocrinologists in the US, which are people who are specifically focusing on understanding and taking care of diabetes, is about 5,000 doctors. And imagine 5,000 doctors against those almost 81 million pre-diabetics. That's a huge imbalance. So what we realized during our research is that if we have to find a way to solve this problem, we cannot just rely on the care teams that hospitals are using right now, because these care teams are already under tremendous pressure. There has to be a better way for these care teams to cater to a large and growing population of pre-diabetics. The other thing that we realize is that hospitals have a huge, not just a talent crunch or a people crunch, they have also a profitability and too many people in the hospital kind of a problem. So if we can solve this problem of scaling the care for diabetes by smart use of technology and human-centered design, we'll be doing huge service to not just the diabetics, but to society in general. So those are the three important findings which really kind of drove what we were developing. And also interesting thing is that, what happens is that when a doctor is forced to engage with a lot of patients at the same time, the quality of care tends to go down. And it also has huge implication on how satisfied patients in general are with their care. So if you make sure that there's a system for everybody to get personalized care, you can actually reduce the number of, you can reduce the stress on doctors and offer better quality care, and of course, reduce costs through that. Just to give you an idea about how imbalanced this is the total number of dietitians in the US, which is about 71,000 people, and the total number of pre-diabetics in the US is 81 million. Now just imagine the imbalance. If you break it down into what does it mean for per care team member in terms of how many patients they have to address, we have one care team member for over 1,100 patients. Now essentially, if you go back to what I was saying before, that diabetes is a high-touch condition. Imagine one care team member taking care of 1,000 or more than 1,000 people and trying to change their behavior. It's unreal. They have to be Superman to do that, perhaps. And that's why there is potentially a way for us to think in terms of how can we find a way through design and human-centered design and technology to predict and prevent type 2 diabetes at scale, which is how do we augment existing care teams through smart use of data, technology, and sensors. To talk more about this, I'll invite Annie to share more.
Hi. So this is where Care Coach come in. What we did was we used big data, AI technology, and human-centered design to create an enterprise solution for diabetes care management at scale. So imagine you are a nurse and you have to take care of thousands of patients. It would be very hard for you to manage the patient at scale. So what this solution do is it will integrate and analyze patient data to create patient risk assessment. It also gives patient personalized recommendation. Now this is very important because we are all unique person. We have our own lifestyle and we eat different type of food. Care Coach will help the hospital to guide their patient and help them to change their behavior and stay away from diabetes. The system also offers the patient's dashboard with real-time data, allow care team to see their patient condition up to date. And all of this would help care team to connect with their patient. How does Care Coach do this? At the heart of this solution is SAP AI platform. The platform will make recommendations based on patient risk assessment. The risk assessment is calculated using the combination between patient data such as A1C level, fasting glucose, BMI. The second data source is wearable, such as body temperature, heart rate, sleep pattern. And the third data source is lifestyle, how you eat, how you exercise, your stress level. And the third data source is genetic. So here are some of the key benefits of our solution. As mentioned, as Saurabh mentioned before, the ratio between care team member and the patient is not sustainable. During our research, it showed that it would take from 3 months to 6 months in order for the patient to get an appointment with their doctor. And by using this solution, it will help scale high-quality diabetes care and management. By leveraging the latest technology, it would help hospitals to improve the quality of diabetes care. On top of this, it enables remote monitoring and care, which means Hospital staff will be able to support non-serious patients remotely and attending to serious patients in the hospital. None of this will let the care team be more involved and engaged with their patient. Last but not least, the solution will reduce the cost of diabetes on unnecessary hospital visits. Now, Savannah's gonna walk you through our product.
Yeah, so I will be walking you all through Care Coach. So since this is an enterprise solution, our main users are care team members at hospitals. However, it's still an interconnected system, so a patient side exists in order to help bridge that gap between hospitals and patients. So in this scenario, I am Nurse Joyce. I have a list of pre-diabetic patients ranked from high to low risk, and what I want to mention is the fact that Care Coach uses AI and machine learning to contact patients, adjust their treatment plan based on each of the patient's needs and behaviors. So let's walk through an example with a low-risk patient. So if I filter through low-risk patients, we can see here that Care Coach sent an automated message to our patient, Matthew Hamlet, and telling him to keep up the good work. He's doing a good job. There's no changes to his treatment plan, and his grade for this week is at an A-. However, what we learned with user testing with clinicians is that they can't fully trust a system to take care of their patients, especially when it comes to healthcare. So therefore, our incorporation of human oversight is super critical, specifically with high-risk patients. So let's walk through an example of that. So if we filter through high risk, and if we take a look at our topmost patient, Daniel Landsman, he has a weekly progress grade of a B-, meaning there's something going wrong with his treatment plan. We need to go in and help dig a little deeper and help assess and see what else we can do to change his behavior and be more motivated. So if we go into his dashboard right here, we can see different data points that Annie mentioned in terms of clinical, wearable, lifestyle, and genetic data. And all of that information gets fed into the type 2 risk assessment graph you see in the middle. And now, since we saw he was struggling with his treatment plan, let's go in and change it. So we'll click on treatment plan, and we see here that it's broken into 4 main categories of diet, exercise, glucose, and medication. So in this example, let's just focus on diet, and we can see that his caloric intake maximum goal is 2,085 calories. However, today alone, he has consumed 3,000 calories, and the day is not over yet. So we need to go in and edit his plan. So we'll go ahead and edit, and I updated his caloric intake goal to 2,500 calories in order to help motivate Daniel to hit his goals. Now I'll go ahead and save the plan and complete his review. And once I do that, the patient will receive a notification telling him that the treatment plan was updated, getting a change log of the update, and he can either confirm those changes or contact the care team with any issues. So this is Care Coach. It helps alleviate work from the care team by automating processes while allowing more insight to better care for their patients. We believe that beyond benefiting hospitals, Care Coach is a meaningful solution that can make a real impact by addressing the growing diabetes problem and creating a healthier society. There's 81 million pre-diabetic people in the world, in the US, and there's one large problem. Care Coach is our solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Another great one. Davidson, where are you? If you and any other SAP folks could come up. I also want to highlight both the Hulu project and this one are sponsored by alums of UCI. And it's so meaningful to us when you come back and give back to students in this way. And we still don't have a photographer, so we're making this work. But if you're following my Twitter feed right now, it's amazing. So there we go. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next up, we have our first sort of nonprofit organization. So we were glad this year to be able to partner with the Monterey Bay Aquarium. I don't know what's happening behind me. I'm just going to pretend I don't see it. And I am going to give you a stretch break after the next one, I promise. So bear with us. We're making it work. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
All right. Is this on? Good. Hey everyone. So we are the Monterey Bay Aquarium team. I'm Serena, that's Q, Youngsun, Clara, and John. And our client is also here today, Athena and Katie from Monterey Bay Aquarium's Education Department. Today we're going to tell you a story about our journey to reimagine the notebook. First, we'll talk about a little inspiration that we started with. Then we'll describe our research process, and then finally we'll talk about the design that supports engaged and collaborative learning for all of the students that the aquarium impacts. So, meet three people, Ida, Marie, and Guillermo, who all recorded their thoughts and ideas, which enabled incredible achievements. You may actually know who these people are. Ida B. Wells fought for civil rights and women's rights. Marie Curie discovered the first radioactive isotopes and won two Nobel Prizes for it. And Guillermo del Toro writes and directs award-winning films. But what do all three of these people have in common? They all used notebooks.
So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about how these people use notebooks. Marie Curie recorded all of her scientific experiments in notebooks that are still radioactive today, actually. Ida B. Wells used her diary as a space to reflect, resist, and emote when she couldn't do so in public. Guillermo del Toro brings his imagination to life in notebook pages, sketching monsters and recording ideas before bringing them to life on the big screen. Those three people use notebooks throughout their lives, but what about you? Are you the kind of person that carries a notebook everywhere and writes everything down, or maybe you haven't picked one up since you went to school? I'm more the latter. What do notebooks mean to you? We are going to introduce notebooks through a different lens, which maybe you haven't thought about before. A notebook is an empty slate, always at your service. It's there to help capture and nurture fleeting moments and ideas. With time, it helps transform your ideas into something you can hold into your hand, like a book or a movie script. Reflection is understanding what's been done to elevate your insights and think about next steps. So, notebooks support every part of this framework, essentially helping create chapters in a journey that never ends. Actually, Monterey Bay Aquarium is already doing this. Let's take a step back. Imagine that you're a student participating in the Limpet science program, like the kids in these photos. Tomorrow, you'd be heading out to the tide pools with your friends where you'd record data together and brainstorm ideas. Back in the classroom, you'd take these ideas and you'd translate them into a tangible format, like a report, and share it with your peers. You'd get feedback from your classmates and your teachers that would help you reflect on your ideas and continue learning. And then you'd take that knowledge with you into your report, your next class, and along on your educational journey. So we learned about this process from some field observations that we did up in Monterey, but I'm gonna let John tell you a little bit more about our research process.
The value of learning, it's not just about what we learn in the moment, but what comes next. The reflection that supports insights revealed and the next steps informed for making new connections. Learning and notebooks are inseparable partners for that new idea, a new way of thinking, and an emerging thought waiting to become something tangible. With this as our inspiration, we asked ourselves, how do we design for this? Well, let's talk about research. Focused on understanding the needs and motivations of our users, a variety of methods and techniques informed our design with details about who our user is and what they would benefit from within a notebook. We researched topics of importance. We observed students working in the tide pools. We interviewed teachers and MBA staff. And finally, with anticipation, we put our prototype in the hands of users for multiple rounds of usability testing with students, teachers, and MBA staff. Informing our design was several key findings for what becomes the foundation of a notebook that will support lifelong learning. First, collaboration. Teachers report students who collaborate perform better in the classroom and beyond. For teachers, collaboration is a way for students to learn to work together and to learn how to give and accept feedback. Teachers recognize collaboration creates something bigger than what each student can create on their own. And next, ownership. Personalization transforms the notebook user into a notebook owner. Personalized notebooks are used more frequently, are kept off more often, and are revisited more often. Ownership makes it personal while supporting the process of learning. And finally, reflection. Creating connections to patterns and trends, reflection provides the opportunity to enrich learning, deepening our experience by connecting us to previous insights. Reflection inspires that new idea waiting to become something tangible. And next, Sun will introduce our design.
Thanks, John. So, meet Ink, a digital notebook app that empowers students to extend their learning. So now, let's see how we apply our research to our design. First, in terms of content creation, we make sure that students can easily capture their ideas using text, photo, video, and audio. Because this app is made for iPads, students can also use the built-in sensors to collect data, which will be especially useful for science classes. And secondly, they can collaborate by sharing their notebooks with others and receiving feedback from both peers and teachers. It will encourage them to exchange their ideas, promote ongoing conversations, and improve teamwork. And moreover, students can take ownership over their work. They organize their notebook contents by creating projects and sections, and they personalize their notebook covers and profiles. And they can access it from anywhere, whether in the classroom, at home, or out in the field. And lastly, the main idea of reflection is for students to revisit their past works to enrich their current learning. We make it easy for students to search past content, annotate their work, and export it to other apps so they can take with them. So now let's see these features in action. So who wants to watch a video?
Imagine all the ways we learn. Learning is individual. Learning is collaborative. Learning is being inspired by new places. Learning is taking it all with you. Ink goes with you, however and wherever learning happens.
Hi. Shark fanny pack. Don't leave home without it. So I'm here to close up and give you some final thoughts. So as you saw in the video, there are a couple things we did that's very unique. First, we started with the students and really tried to look at what they were trying to achieve. So for example, we created notebooks instead of organizing by folders. What that does is it brings back that nostalgic feeling of being able to doodle on that cover and kind of make it yours and make it feel personal. Second, we modernized the capabilities. So if you saw the video, we not only used the iPad's camera, but also the gyroscope. What that allowed was a chameleon could now be photographed, but we could also measure its length and import all of that directly into the project. Pretty cool stuff. And so, once we had a prototype, we did a few things called usability testing. That's where we basically give it to teachers and students and let them play with it. So, our first student, Sharky, said basically it could be better than Google Docs. And we believe that's because we put students and what they were trying to achieve first, rather than office workers first. You know that phrase, "Where have you been all my life?" That's basically what our second student said. And finally, teacher seal. This person's actually tried to use other digital notebooks in the classroom before, but when they saw our version, they were over the moon with it. That's great. So now at this point, you might be thinking, okay, neat responses, 3 people, so what? What you may not realize is actually the Monterey Bay Aquarium has a rich and deep history with education. You can see some amazing numbers there, but the one I'd like to call out is that to date, they've served over 2.5 million students through their programs. It's quite a number when you think about it and say, they've got some cool fish over there. So, what's next? I'd like to bring the team back up. And I'm happy to say that as of today, we have a full prototype ready to hand off to developers. For our part, if you'd like to learn more, just come talk to us afterwards. Our great partners, say hi, are actually currently in the middle of trying to obtain funding to build and develop the app itself. So if you're interested in contributing or helping out, please see them afterwards. But once it's built, a couple things. Tomorrow, we hope that the aquarium will the aquarium is planning to use it across all of their programs. And we've shown you how it can be useful both outside the classroom as well as inside the classroom. And finally, because our service is subject agnostic, meaning it can be used for any class, Monterey would like to one day make it fully available to all students, teachers, and classrooms worldwide to support those efforts. With that said, thank you so much, Monterey, for the past 6 months, for the journey. Thank you, everyone, for letting us tell our story. And we are the Monterey Bay Aquarium team.
All right, thank you so much, folks. Katie and Athena, if we can have you come up. We'll say thank you. They brought a prototype with them, I see. There we are. Thank you. I have a particular affection for the Monterey Bay Aquarium because they have those adorable otters, right? Anyone else? No, just me? Okay. So I promised you a moment to stand and stretch, and I will give you that moment. Do we have any special fishy exercises we do? No? Okay, we're getting some. All right. Up we go. Everyone, be your own inner jellyfish. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. We are halfway through. Okay, and back down. Core Logic, if we could have you come on up. Thank you. So we're going to go from swimming around in the sea to thinking about our real estate. You'll all be able to afford to build this wonderful app for the Monterey Bay Aquarium. We're going to sit down now, Monterey Bay team. I know we think we don't have to do what anyone asks. Okay. We are going to switch gears a little bit here to another local to down here, Orange County company, CoreLogic. Anyone who owns a house, rents a house, thinks about a house has touched CoreLogic. So this should be very relevant to all of you, and we're very excited to have them get started.
Thanks, Jillian. We are Team Synergy, and like Jillian said, our client is CoreLogic. And CoreLogic is the leading provider of real estate data. They maintain the largest, most comprehensive database of property and related financial records in the United States. And as you can see by some of the numbers here, 4.5 billion real estate records, 50 years of data that covers over 99.9% of US properties, as well as over 145 million parcels of tax payment information. They have a massive amount of data. And if you've never heard of them, it's because they're a business-to-business company. They use all of this intelligence at scale to empower the real estate, insurance, and lending industries to help millions of people find, purchase, and protect their homes. So I guarantee you, like Jillian said, if you have bought a home, your data has likely been calculated and provided to someone by CoreLogic. And now CoreLogic wants to bring these insights to individual consumers like you and me, so we can monitor one of our biggest financial investments, our home. And this will help us to monitor the financial investment in our home through risk prevention, real estate data, neighborhood details, value, and equity. And this is actually a huge opportunity because most of the real estate products in the market today are aimed at people who are in the market to buy or sell a home. But that only represents about 4% of the population. So CoreLogic asked us to help them develop a product that could help the other 96%, and that's pretty big. And here's our team. So on the CoreLogic side, we have Dave Hamilton, Senior Vice President, Joe Greenwald, who helped inform the original idea of the product as product manager, and then Kartik Mani, Senior Director of Software Engineering. And on the UCI side, we have Rona Cabrera.
I did project management and research.
Raylin Zhang.
I have worked on interactive design and branding.
And Liliana Hernandez.
And I worked on visual and interactive design.
And me, Kathy Emsoff, I did interaction design and research. And like a lot of the other teams that you've seen here today, we use the double diamond approach for user-centered design. And the shapes of the diamonds are actually a really important part of this approach because they represent the divergence and convergence of ideas. And so in the discover phase, that's where we go broad and we talk to a lot of people and we gather lots and lots of insights and generate a ton of ideas. In the next phase, the define phase, is where we start to narrow it down a bit to what is most important to our users. And then next, in the develop phase, we let ourselves go a little bit broad again, and we develop high-level concepts, and then we test those with users. And then finally, in the develop phase, we narrow it back down again and develop high-fidelity designs based on what we've learned throughout the entire process.
Thanks, Kathy. And then moving on to discover phase. CoreLogic was very open to having current homeowner sentiments to help shape the direct-to-consumer product, abbreviated as D2C for us. Given the flexible nature of this D2C product and its scope, we delved into the Capstone's project beginning with the discover phase. This phase encompassed interviews to make sure we gathered sufficient qualitative findings, competitive analysis to understand the current market for home management tools, and finally surveys to quantify these findings to answer our key research questions as well as scope our product's key features and capabilities. We conducted user interviews using the method of contextual inquiry in order to compile qualitative information about people's attitudes, beliefs, feelings, emotional reactions on the topic of home ownership and management. Our key research questions included the following four. What do homeowners like to know the most about their home? What do they exactly intend to do with their home? What business model and solution would be the most appealing to them? And how would homeowners find more information about their home? The results were the following four. People expressed an interest in knowing the value of their home. People expressed an interest in knowing the value of their home, and especially in learning if the value had changed for some reason, if they were unaware of. And about half of the people said they would sell at some point, but didn't necessarily know when their projected timing could vary as much as 5 to 10 years. And people also generally liked the location and area of the home, and good schools were always on their radar. Finally, people generally had an expectation that a product like this would be free and cited Zillow and Trillia as examples of websites where they can actually get this information for free. If they were going to pay, they didn't want a long-term commitment, and the product would have to prove itself before they would consider paying. While there were no direct competitors in the market, A competitive analysis helped show features that may exist in the market in other types of products, as well as people's expectations for this particular kind of product. We looked at real estate apps like HomeZada, Zillow, Trillia, financial tech apps like Betterment, Wealthfront, NerdWallet, and Mint, as well as credit management tools like Experian and Credit Karma. We knew that personalization was key in our 3 findings. From info about home values to financial tracking goals, the market has set a precedent for personalized tools. We also discovered that there's a lot of value in the market for free. These free products are generally supported by business models that include monetization through sponsorships and sometimes a free to premium tiered approach. Finally, we saw that design can be a key differentiator. From visual design to interaction features that make it easy for a user to begin, we knew that a clear design for this product would make a big difference in desirability for our homeowner audience. Finally, coming together, given the initial findings of our interviews and competitive analysis, we wanted to validate and quantify the primary needs of users and features for the D2C product. 115 homeowners who were 30 to 60 years old answered our survey questions. The key takeaways were the following 3. While all age groups were concerned about their home's market value, homeowners who were 40 to 60 cared more about risk than those who were younger. We also saw that homeowners who were 30 to 44 use more digital apps and resources, like websites, than those who are older. Lastly, 55% preferred a free website that was ad or sponsor supported. And overall, 92% preferred a free website overall. Given these findings, we were able to scope the target audience as well as the potential content to be reorganized through a card sort. And I'll leave it to Ray.
Thank you. During the define phase, we have learned from the discovery phase to create user personas in order to learn about the goals and pain points of our users. We also built information architecture so we could better understand how users would likely navigate through the product. And we diagram out the user flow to enable us to visualize how a user would move from one part of the product to another, and to simulate the workflow of the final product. The first step of the define phase was to take what we have learned from the user interviews and the survey to create user personas. User personas are great for keeping the product focused on the user goals, needs, and their desires throughout the design process. Based on our research, we identified 5 personas to help inform the product: the experienced homeowner, the economic homeowner, the opportunist homeowner, the proactive homeowner, the young homeowner. We kept those users in mind throughout our design process to make sure the product we were developing would meet our user needs. As we mentioned earlier, the define phase is all about starting to narrow down the scope to what matters the most to the users. To do this, we use card sort method, where we list all the features we learned about from the discovery phase and ask the participants to categorize them using a Likert scale rating from not at all important to very important. Then we classified all the features and find that the top rated features are home value, expense, and protection. Moving forward, we focused on those features for our design and development of the product. A user flow helps to show how the end product will function from a user's perspective and to visualize how user will move from one part of the product to another and simulate the workflow of the final product. We have focused on 3 key scenarios in the user flow diagram: free version, premium version, and vendor login. After all the prerequisites were worked on and completed from the discovery and define phases, we had gathered sufficient materials to start with the development for the homegrown product, which included developing wireframes, building interactive prototypes, and conducting usability testing to validate our design. Combining findings from the competitive analysis and the structure from the IA and user flow, wireframes were developed to lay out the foundational design of the product. The wireframes look at 5 main sections: authentication flow, dashboard view, account page, value, and marketplace information. We also conceived of 6 different product names and logos. And each design and logo come with a meaningful story to reflect the product and the service it would provide. For example, the name Red Door has varied meanings in different cultures. In Scotland, a painted red door indicates the house behind it has been fully paid off. With multiple branding selections presented to our clients, Homegrow was chosen in the end because it conveys the idea of home as well as the increasing value over time. Now I'm going to hand this over to Leanna to walk you through with the interactive prototype.
Thank you, Ray. So after our branding exploration, we got to work on the mid-fidelity prototype. We built this prototype using the wireframes as a blueprint for our iterative design, and we started integrating the Homegrow logo throughout. We explored different color schemes and built out a few of the features just to start defining those user interactions and flows. The goal at this stage of the design development process was to create a prototype that we could use for our first round of usability testing, where we were going to focus on the sign-in process and test out the app navigation. So in that first round of usability testing, we really wanted to understand what the overall impressions of the product was going to be, and specifically test out the clarity of the sign-up process, as well as the account page and the home risk and home value pages. We found that users generally had positive impressions about the general design of the site. However, only 14% were willing to pay $7.99 a month for this product, where 57% stated that they would prefer a free or ad-supported site. Participants were also skeptical of the content accuracy in our prototypes. So that was a focus for our next iteration, was to have stronger and clearer content. So after this first round of usability testing, we transitioned into the deliver phase of our double diamond approach, where we combined all findings and took the iterative development process to its fruition. So these findings turned into our high fidelity prototype, where we fleshed out the product design and user interaction flows. From pre-authentication through the sign-up process, an account page in the dashboard, to each individual feature of the product, the prototype really started to take shape. This upgrade addressed the concerns over misaligned and confusing content and defined a design system for the product. And then we submitted this prototype to a second round of usability testing. The second round of usability testing was really meant to help us understand how potential users felt about the general design and concept of the product, and see if it was something that they'd be willing to buy. So from this study, we found that participants really enjoyed the design and features, so much so that there was so much more willingness to pay. In this study, we found that 75% of users expressed they would be willing to pay, compared to the 14% of the first test. Also, taking some of the feedback from this test, we updated the prototype for clarity of terminology and copywriting. And at this point, we were ready to prepare the final deliverable for our client. And while preparing the final deliverable, the team also prepared a set of email layouts as supplemental components to the product. This email design was created to envision how homeowners might be notified about updates to their properties, and reflects a push marketing strategy the product might employ.
And that's how we applied the double diamond approach to CoreLogic's first consumer application, Homegrow. When all was said and done, over 200 people helped us shape this product through user research, including some of those that are here in the audience. Thank you. Okay, I wasn't quite done. I wanted to thank the Pewits for helping us with their research, but I'll quickly show you a couple of screens from our prototype. So here's the landing experience, where marketing and branding draw the user into the experience, as well as a free 30-day trial. A home value equity chart shows users' value that they can glean from the application, as well as a neighborhood map. A risk meter illustrates protecting your home, And a sample of the application shows the full desktop experience. Users can get right into the free trial through a seamless sign-up process. And landing on the dashboard, all of their data is organized into one experience that gives them the direct access to the rest of the application. We'd like to thank CoreLogic, as well as our instructor, Darren, for guidance and support throughout the project. Now, thank you.
I believe we have a few people from CoreLogic here. Is that right? Can we have you come up? Say thank you. So what I think we've learned is we all need to invest in real estate, make lots of money, and then give it to the Monterey Bay Aquarium to get their stuff built, right? Is that kind of how this works? There we go. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, and I'll do picture for if we can. And there we are. Thank you so much. So thanks again, guys, for coming. And our next group up is the Catalia Health team. Another one, so Catalia Health is special to me, well, they're all special in different ways, but Catalia is fun because someone that I knew when I was a graduate student started the Catalia company, and now one of our alums is our sponsor there for this project. So many layers. I'm always telling the students that the people you meet in grad school will be with you for the rest of your life, and one day you'll be running a program and they'll be sponsoring things. So thank you, Catalia Health team. Get started. Ooh. Wow.
Just waking.
That was just a wake-up call, just to make sure everybody was aware. Okay, now we're going to start.
Yes, thank you so much for being here today. I know everyone's taking their Fridays to see some amazing presentations, and we're really excited to share with you today the work that we've done with Catalia Health in exploring how we might build a better patient community. We're the Flourish team. My name is Alex.
I'm Renee.
I'm Alexa. And I'm Grace.
So Catalia Health is a healthcare technology company based in San Francisco. They're focused on improving a patient's health outcomes after they leave the care of a doctor or other healthcare professional. And they do this through their core product, which is the Maybu Personal Healthcare Companion. Maybu is a robot, essentially, with a conversational interface. And the conversations that a patient can have with Maybu are tailored to the specific condition. Here she is. She's very cute. Kind of sleepy here. So they've done a great job with rolling out Maybu. And a lot of patients have had great success in interacting with the robot, but we were approached by Catalia Health to explore how might we create better patient-to-patient interactions in the context of a patient community. While this is a completely new area for Catalia Health, and ourselves included, we realized it would be a research-heavy project. So you're going to hear a lot about patients as we go through this presentation. And in the end, we actually developed and delivered a high-fidelity prototype, as well as some additional recommendations for where the community could go from here. So the problem. It's a two-pronged problem for patients that have chronic illnesses, as they're often faced with, frankly, a poor understanding of their own conditions, and they have trouble going about caring for themselves after they're outside of the hospital or outside of the care of a doctor or other healthcare professional. And this causes a lot of patients to feel feelings of anxiety and depression. For those with chronic illnesses, they're 3 times more likely to have anxiety or depression. And this is definitely a very big problem. And we see there being an opportunity to facilitate not only a patient to robot interaction, but a patient to patient interaction, and kind of drive higher levels of engagement. Because it's been proven that the more you can engage with the patient after they've been discharged, the better their health outcomes are. So just like all of the other teams, we followed a design thinking process. But before I dive into what that process is, we did a lot of work up front to establish a plan and frankly do a ton of scoping on this. It's a very big exploratory project, and Renee will talk a little bit more about how we scoped this out. The first phase of our project is the research phase, and we sought out to discover and define what the problem space is. In our discovery phase, we performed a lot of exploratory research with actual patients and interviewing them and really understanding their context and sort of the troubles that they have in facing chronic illness. We took those findings and we synthesized them, and we defined what the problem was in a way that we could develop into an actual solution in the design phase. So we took ideas in the develop phase and prototyped upon them, tested them, and iterated. And in the end, we delivered a validated prototype, which we'll share with you today. I'll hand it over to Renee to talk more about the research phase.
Excellent, thank you, Alex. All right, so as Alex mentioned, this was a pretty broad project that initially started out about chronic illness. And we really wanted to scope this down to something that was manageable and focus on a certain area. And that area that we decided to go with and confirmed with Catalia Health on was heart disease. And as you see on the screen, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in America, also known as the silent killer. Before we even started speaking with patients and understanding the landscape of heart disease, we all had to go through HIPAA compliance. This was a huge undertaking to make sure that we were compliant and making sure that we were protecting patients' private information, that we were making sure that we were identifying patients only by coding, because we know this is a sensitive topic and this is a sensitive area. So this wasn't the normal research approach. We first had to get training to really understand the patient's pain points and understand first even how to handle the patients that we were speaking with. A lot of secondary research to understand, again, the landscape. So talking with Catalia Health, looking at lit reviews, understanding medical journals, seeing what was already out there, and also doing some competitive analysis on platforms that have sort of communities, but not at the scope that we were looking to take it to. Again, with secondary research, a lot of data that's already in place that we wanted to study so to make sure that we had the knowledge and empathy in going into this research plan. So a couple of numbers up there, but one of the ones I want to point out is the middle one, that 48%, again, of chronically ill patients suffer depression, what Alex was mentioning. And having these communities to help people foster communications, letting them know that they are not alone, is something that Catalia Health really wanted to look at to really help with the care management of people's conditions. So, the primary research, what we actually were able to conduct. So both quantitative and qualitative, speaking with patients, speaking with people with heart disease, understanding the data, doing various types of methodologies, interviews, card sorts, surveys, and really aggregating all of that information, again, to really investigate and interrogate this problem space that we wanted to learn more about. So we're going to hear from a couple of these patients now.
Such a thing that comes on so suddenly, at least in my case and most other cases. It's hard to comprehend. You're kind of in shock, no pun intended. And so now that I've kind of crossed into the let me share my experience with you versus holy crap, what just happened, it's more of it's going to be okay, take it one day at a time. It does get better. And so I have no problem sharing anything like that because there's a lot of different steps you go through. You know, and that first year is the hardest. It's the you're still anxious. Right as soon as I hit that 1 year mark, things kind of got a little bit more settled mentally. There's a lot of anxiety up to that first year, and I see it in other people, and I see when they're posting things or talking about things, and I was the same way. So I'm very open as far as it's going to get better. It's going to be okay. Trust me, I've been through it.
Being young,
and it being, for the most part, it's pretty invisible as far as illnesses go, especially when you're pretty young. There's a lot of judgment. Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? That's been pretty.
We are a collective group of people with a very serious, fatal, incurable disease. Like, why can't we use our, being together collectiveness to help? Whether it helps in our lifetime or people after us, like, why can't we use our group to help move along heart failure and its treatment and its day-to-day living and its quality of life and its quantity of life,
So those are just a couple of stories that we heard continuously as we talked to these patients. Again, the qualitative research really helped us empathize. We saw the data, we read data from the surveys, but it's where these interviews really made a difference in how we approached this project when we heard these people's stories. A couple of demographics. Again, key data point I want to point out here, that over 48% of the participants that we spoke to were in this age group of 40 and 54. Heart disease over the years is starting to show up in younger and younger demographics. It is no longer a senior type of disease. And we really started seeing that when we saw the participants that we spoke with. Recruiting. So again, given the problem space, this was not an easy task. We're dealing with private and personal information, so we had to get quite creative in how we were recruiting participants. There are group spaces currently in the ones that you see here, and so we were able to actually join these groups, being very transparent that we were looking for information for research, and people were a little bit more willing to participate. But again, it took some time to really build that trust with these participants. So a couple of key findings that really helped to inform the designs. Community. It's all about belonging and giving back. We heard from that participant about why can't we collectively help this cure? Why can't we collectively as a community help find something? You saw a couple of quotes up there in terms of, I'm an encourager trying to shed light in a dark place. Engaging in dynamic content is so important. So having a community is one part, but if there are not participants in that community actually talking, actually having conversations, then it's just stagnant. So really making sure that these communities are vibrant, they're alive, and people are really seeing the value. Education and shared experiences. So not just having a place where people can talk, but people really want to be educated. People really want to understand how to better manage their conditions. And then also being part of a community to share those experiences. One of the quotes that we wanted to pull out was, it's hard to find things to eat and not understanding what to eat because you have to be on a special diet. And being able to share those experiences with other people was really important to these participants. And then finally, our older participants really showed a preference to face-to-face interactions. So it wasn't just about posting and having copy content, but it's also being able to actually see someone and actually be able to communicate with people face-to-face as well. That was important. And primary for this group was because they felt like it was less likely that someone was scamming them if they could see them. So yeah. And then after all the research that we did, we were able to speak to and survey over 42 participants. We were able to create archetypes, so behavior types of participants in this community that we really wanted to make sure saw the value of what the designs were bringing. So the observer, someone who was able to come in, get the content, receive valuable information, maybe not partake right away, especially if they are newly diagnosed. We heard there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of judgment. So we wanted to be able to provide a space that people felt comfortable to observe and obtain content. Also the contributor. We saw that a lot of the participants, as they're along their healthcare journey, that they were more willing to contribute, more willing to share. But again, they can also fall back into that observer mode as well. And then finally, the mentor. These are people who are the encourager, the people who have learned how to manage their heart disease, and now they're willing to give back. They want to make sure that the people who are being diagnosed early don't have that anxiety, because as we heard, it gets better. We've been there, I understand that. And with that, we're going to turn it over to Lex to talk about the designs.
Okay, so while we wanted to create an end product that was, like an online community, we actually found that it was really important to incorporate both the online and the offline face-to-face interaction. So we actually came up with 3 main touch points. We wanted to create a community that connected patients to patients, patients to education, and patients to services and resources. So shifting to the design phase, we actually thought it was important to meet in person and collaborate. So we actually traveled to Catalia Health in San Francisco, and we performed a design sprint, and we kind of developed different concepts and key user flows. And we came up with an engaging, wireframing exercise, and we actually came up with an explore page and a community page where the participants could engage with this dynamic content, but also engage with each other and discuss their illnesses and also their pain points and expertise and advice. And so we actually iterated on a couple of different wireframes, and we were able to decide on some flows that we wanted to focus for the low fidelity prototype. And so moving on, we actually finished up our prototype, and we were able to test 5 users, and we really wanted to understand how patients currently engage with those things that we created, the Explore and the community page. And the feedback that we actually received from those user tests, it kind of informed our decision and it kind of guided us to update our prototype. So without further ado, we would like to introduce Flourish. It actually means to grow or develop in a healthy way, especially as a result of a particularly favorable environment.
And so as you can see, we built out 2 major flows. It was patient to education and patient to patient. We left out the patient to resource in this project because it was out of scope, but that is one of our recommendations. Going into the Explore page, we wanted to make that our landing page because for a lot of the patients we spoke to who were the observers, they were more prone to just read about information that was relevant to them rather than contributing. And so we wanted to make them, when they log on, when they get into the app, we wanted to make them feel less intimidated, less like they had to contribute. And so we thought that by offering them personalized content, it would make that transition a little smoother for those observers. However, we also built out the community pages, which is for those contributors and mentors. The categories we selected was based off of our card sort activity and surveys, as well as our interviews in the very beginning. We further built out the stories category because that was a very important piece for all of our participants, because all of them really felt that it was valuable for them to share their story with like-minded people who were going through the same thing. I don't know if you remember in the video, the second man who spoke, he said it's really hard for him to meet people of his age who go through anything that's similar to him. and oftentimes he feels judged because of that. And so having this story portal was very helpful for people to just essentially connect and share their stories. And so this is how we want to give our recommendations is going to be based off of a predictive design model. And so furthermore, even though we haven't built it out in the design, essentially we want to capture the patient's moods, their feelings, and their demographics through a really easy onboarding process. On top of that, the app itself would then take in information on their activity, on kind of what they're into, on where they're at in their user journey. And through all those data points, we would then give our recommendations to the users in hopes that when they do land on the recommendations page, everything that they receive is content that they really want to engage with. And so for our next steps, since our client is really wanting to integrate Maybu with this product that we built out, we feel that there's a lot of opportunity for us to actually integrate Maybu's conversational interface with this product. And through Maybu, we can not only leverage the existing health data, we can also use Maybu as a way to further promote engagement with the end user. And thank you.
So as I mentioned, our current sponsor for this awesome project is Stacy Saronic, who's also an alum. Thank you, Stacy. And we'll do a picture. I want all of you to flourish, and so you can have a little short break. Stand up, stretch, walk around a little bit. You've seen 6 awesome presentations so far. We have 2 more to come, plus a reception, plus a keynote. So the day is not over, but you do get to mingle a little for about 15 minutes. Thank you. 15 minutes. Short. coming back, we're coming back. Alrighty. Am I back on? Oh, I am. Fantastic. If we could have everyone come on back in, grab your seats. We do have an exciting rest of the afternoon for our program. As I mentioned, you have now seen 6 incredible master's capstone presentations. Really great work, representing 36 months of hard work by, on average, 5 people each. So what's that work out? We're like 180 months of work you have seen so far today, which is really exciting. We have 2 more of these excellent presentations to go through. We will also have a keynote speaker this afternoon, and you will also have networking time, and all of the great groups that you've seen so far in the 2 to come have posters. Some cases they have demos. I don't know if there's robots here, maybe, I hope. And you can talk with all of them in more depth. So really exciting. Our next presentation is a really unique one because although it's 6 months of work for us, and it is a capstone for this team, it is only halfway through the engagement with the university here. And I'll let these guys tell you a little bit more what that means. So next up, Cellmark. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd like to introduce our team. My name is Ken, and maybe this will be the only slide we show today. There we go. My name is Ken. To my left is Jillian, Joe, and Sahar. And we worked with Bob Hoffman and Chisa Ueda of Cellmark Recycling. You know, Cellmark is a really unique capstone client. When we first learned we would be working with a paper warehouse in South Carolina, our first thought was, what are we going to design? It turned out to be a really great project, and it was a reminder to our team that screen-based design is only part of what the program is about. And I want to start with a brief story that illustrates what happens when we focus too much on screen-based design and not enough on user needs. So I work at a small consulting company, and this was one of our clients, an auto repair shop in Seattle. And they're a skilled team of technicians, and they run a big operation, sometimes working on up to 100 cars a week. And sometimes when the complexity increases, the technicians can miss a step in the process, and that causes some rework, and it causes things to slow down. And so the owners of the shop, seeking to address this problem, devised a app-based checklist system that would be available on computers throughout the warehouse. And the idea is that the technicians would log and mark off every step along the process of repairing a car. And when they did so, the owners of the shop would receive a notification. So the day came where the owners were going to unveil this big plan, and the technicians said, no way will I use that. And the reason they said that was because they felt micromanaged. They felt like the owners were looking over their shoulder. And the owners ultimately ended up scrapping this checklist system. And we later worked with them to implement what the technicians said they really wanted, which was a tool to more effectively communicate amongst themselves and to have the autonomy to drive things forward in the way that made sense for them. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about 3 core ideas that influenced our research work with Cellmark Recycling. We may think about human-computer interaction as prototypes and wireframes, and certainly that's all true. But before that, and I think fundamental to this program, it's really about understanding the users, their environment, and their worldview. Because without that, even the great design solutions can't take hold.
Great. So for our first core idea that we're going to talk about is to put on your client's shoes. So back in March, we met with Bob Hoffman from Cellmark Recycling. Bob introduced us to what it is exactly that Cellmark does. Cellmark buys rolls that the big paper mills would normally throw out. These rolls have some sort of damage or defect in them. Cellmark then takes these rolls, cleans them, trims them, and sells them to clients. Next, Bob took us through the paper receiving process. First, rolls arrive at the warehouse, either on rail cars or trucks. They are unloaded and put in the warehouse. Then workers get started by measuring the rolls and cutting samples. These samples are then handed off to the next team, who analyzes them to determine what specific type of paper they are and what they're suitable to be used for. This information is then entered into the inventory management software, which makes it available for the sales teams to see and to start selling the rolls to clients. Once the rolls are sold, they are pulled from the warehouse, put onto trucks, and shipped out. So our client was looking to reduce inefficiency and errors, specifically in the measurement and analysis phases of the receiving process. Because when these phases take too long, not only does it take forever for the rolls to get inventoried and put into the system and available for sale, but it also means that Cellmark incurs costly fees for every day that the rail cars are left on the tracks. We knew we could provide value by performing UX research, specifically into the current processes and finding improvements there. But first, we had to dive deep into the world of paper. We spent time researching and poring over all of the different industry terms and abbreviations. We also looked into process improvement guidelines, specifically in industrial settings. All of this background research was incredibly helpful, but really, we needed more. We needed to uncover why there were inefficiencies and errors within the warehouse. We needed to understand the context of the warehouse and the people within it. We needed to see it for ourselves.
We sought the advice from fellow researchers and mentors in planning our project. Their recommendations aligned with our own plan to follow the common design frameworks of splitting the project into two phases: a research phase for problem discovery and definition, and a design phase for solution development and delivery. To prepare for our 3-day research trip, we conducted a series of phone interviews with management, learning about the different employees' roles. Joe made an initial scouting visit to the warehouse, which helped us to get a sense of the vast 140,000 square foot space. The warehouse was huge, and we knew that it would be important to carefully plan our visit. We developed a comprehensive research plan that utilized a variety of research methodologies: contextual inquiry, observation, and one-on-one interviews. Our focus was understanding the dynamics of the warehouse, how information was communicated between the employees, how they used technology, where breakdowns occur, and how the environment and company culture impacted the warehouse operations.
The team headed to Orangeburg, South Carolina, home to our client's warehouse. The very next morning, we began our 3-day research study. When you walk into the warehouse, you may be surprised by the thousands of rolls that fill the building. Walking end to end can take several minutes, and there's a constant flow of grab trucks moving through the aisles looking for available free space to put available product. During an observation, I watched as members of the receiving team walked back and forth between receiving and the office, both on opposite sides of the warehouse.
During an interview, one of the employees talked to us about a situation which we had seen earlier in the day during our observations. Rolls of paper had been laid out on the warehouse floor, and this employee and another were tasked with labeling the rolls. Both employees had an understanding of which order to go in when labeling the rolls. However, they had different understandings. So while one was going up and down the rows, the other was going horizontally back and forth. This ended up leading to a lot of confusion, delay, and rework.
We also engaged in contextual inquiry where we shadowed employees at the warehouse. And one of the things this method revealed was how much specialized knowledge that employees rely upon to do their job. This information often exists inside their heads, as opposed to some external system where more of the team could access it. And that problem is compounded by the fact that Wi-Fi only extends partway through the warehouse. And so for complex questions, it was often quicker for employees to just walk the length of the warehouse to resolve the questions for themselves. And so that's an inefficient process, but it also had the consequence of that the employees had a lot of face-to-face interaction with each other. And one of the employees we interviewed said that she was used to working in fairly isolated warehouse environments, and that since joining the Cellmark warehouse, the personal connection had been a key factor in her job satisfaction.
We came back from the field study loaded with research data, and over the next week, we cleaned, organized, and coded it. From this data, we developed several contextual design models, which allowed us to develop deeper insights by seeing the dynamics of the warehouse from multiple points of view. Through our model creation and examination, we arrived at 4 key insights. The warehouse faced negative impacts from the scarcity of space. Employees often relied on memory to complete tasks. Critical information was spread through the warehouse with limited access. Yet, the Orangeburg team had established conditions for success with a culture of self-reflection, experimentation, and focus on strong interpersonal connections. Taking our insights, we carefully crafted a detailed report, laying out the critical issues identified and triangulated by our research, and we presented these findings to our client. From our 4 insights, we developed 16 recommendations. But if there was a common theme to our recommendation, it was to increase the visibility of information and processes at the warehouse. Our findings were then forwarded to warehouse management and each member of the warehouse team.
So we had just delivered our findings to our clients, and those had been shared with the entire warehouse team. But how could we turn those findings into a long-lasting impact? With a deeper understanding of our users, their environment, we developed a new problem statement, grounded in our clients' business objectives and our research insights. Our goal to improve communication and make access to critical information within the receiving department easier, increasing efficiency, and reducing error. Our team generated solutions in a series of sketching, brainstorming, and design thinking sessions. We then reached back out to Cellmark to plan a feedback session with the entire Orangeburg team. Our plan was to get the team's reactions and feedback on our research findings and to be able to ask questions and discuss some of the initial ideas that both we and the warehouse team had for addressing these issues. What may have been just a simple feedback session turned into a powerful moment. Our report provided the team with a framework, a shared language for discussing the issues at the warehouse, and the session provided an open forum for the team to voice their ideas. The creation of a cross-department status report and the addition of regular morning meetings were just 2 ideas that generated excitement with employees at the warehouse. Implementing these ideas improved communication between the departments, increasing the agency of employees in making informed decisions. And by having real-time data on the rail cars coming in and the inventory going out, allows both shipping and receiving to better coordinate each day. Over the next few weeks, we developed a finalized set of recommended solutions, incorporating the ideas from the warehouse staff. We prioritized these solutions by impact, effort, urgency, before handing them off to Cellmark. But change comes from within. The success of this project started with a few key ideas that came out of our research, insights, and recommendations. But it succeeded because of the efforts of the warehouse team. And the positive results that we've seen so far will have a long-lasting impact.
So in summary, our takeaways: put on your client's shoes, see it for yourself, and change comes from within. You know, sometimes as consultants or designers, we get so honed in on creating that perfect solution. And we get so focused on what we want to change that we can forget about the human and the cultural impact of that change inside an organization. We can also forget about what's already working well. And finally, we can help our clients not only see new solutions, but help them view the larger problem space for themselves, because ultimately they will be the ones to carry the initiatives forward. This capstone represented a big mindset shift for our team, and we hope that by presenting it to you today, that it gives you something to think about as you take on new initiatives in human-centered design. Thank you.
Yes, I'm waving at you. No? We have a unique way that this partner came to us today, and I'm waving at her, and she's ignoring me. Yes! So as I mentioned, this was a really unique project, and we're so excited that Chris here was able to bring this company to us, because they are now going to go on, the mechanical engineering folks over in the School of Engineering are going to take this exciting work and implement it in some physical systems. So check back, I don't know, in the future, and we'll see what's happening. I'll do one. Oops, I'm on selfie mode. Sorry. There we go. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you again so much. Great work. And last but not least, our final student presentation of the day. Another alumni-sponsored one. See how we do this? We kind of, every other one's alumni-sponsored. And things are happening. Okay, so Jupiter Labs, another nonprofit partner. We love to have our mix of groups, and I will let you all take it away. You've made this beautiful space.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph, and we worked with Project Jupiter. Is anyone here familiar with Project Jupiter? Okay, a couple people. I had no idea what Project Jupiter was when we started this project. So what is Project Jupiter? It's really three things. One, it's a suite of tools for interactive computing. Two, all of those tools are completely free and open source, so anyone can use them. And then three, an entire community from around the world builds and maintains those tools. So it's really the intersection of those three things that make Jupiter unique. Now, Daniel, you were familiar with Project Jupiter when we started.
A little bit.
So what do Jupiter tools actually do?
Yeah, so at a high level, Jupyter tools allow users to analyze big data sets and present those results to others. So for example, one of the users we interviewed took all the real estate data from his region, analyzed it, created a data model, and then created graphs and visualizations to show his wife that it was actually a good idea to buy a home in their area.
So really cool stuff. But the current website was not doing a very good job of showing how cool Jupiter is. So Omar, what were some of the problems with the current website?
Thank you, Joe. Yes, the website was very poorly designed. The architecture was kind of broken, and so the current users could not use it. They completely avoid the website, and the new users didn't understand what the website was for. So it did a very poor job explaining what the tools were, how to use them, and pretty much no one used the website at all.
Now first, I want to give a shout out to our client, Tim George, who is an alumni of this program. So Graham, what did Tim and Project Jupiter ask us to do?
Yeah, so going off of those core values of an open source mission, the technology that Jupiter creates, and the community that creates it, we were tasked to redesign the website in a way that it was accessible for everyone. This included people who had been using Jupyter for years in a variety of ways, but also people who had probably never heard of Jupyter and maybe wanted to go to the website to find out. Essentially, we needed to create a website that was accessible for everyone from a CTO to a sixth grader.
And Christina, what did we need to do in order to accomplish this?
So we conducted extensive user research to identify user needs in order to design a solution to meet those needs.
So Daniel, you are our product manager. Can you just give a quick high-level overview of our timeline?
Yeah, so we front-loaded our project with lots of research and analysis to understand what Jupyter was, the current users of the website, and potential users of the website. And during our design phase, we interspersed usability testing and user interviews to make sure we were on the right track.
And Christina, with Jupyter being an open source organization, how did that affect our timeline?
So being in an open source organization meant that the project not only concerns stakeholders, but also the entire community. And to involve them with every step in the process, we would update them periodically with our progress and ask them for feedback on their forums.
So, Omar, after talking to users and synthesizing our research, one key challenge emerged for this project. What was it?
Yeah, so on one hand, we had people who are developers, scientists, mathematicians, very technical. On the other hand, we have people like a lot of us here who are not technical, who are not science-based, and being able to have a design that spoke to these two audiences and explain the tools to these two audiences was a real challenge, right?
Yeah.
So,
all right, so Graham, we went through a lot of iterations of wireframes and prototypes, right?
Yeah, we went through quite a few. Every time we conducted a user test, we had created a fully fledged prototype for users to walk through and engage us with their pain points, but also the stuff that worked really well for them. Each of these rounds of user testing provided us with a ton of really positive feedback and areas that we really needed to avoid if we were to move to a future version.
And Christina, you are our lead UX researcher. What was the key piece of feedback that we got from user testing?
So given how complex Jupyter is as an organization and how complex their offerings are, our main struggle was in how to describe and explain Jupyter effectively on the website. So to answer your question, the most valuable insights we got from user testing revolved around labels and terminology. And each time we tweaked these labels, it also tweaked the information architecture. And ultimately, we found that the terms tools and technologies resonated best with users across the spectrum, regardless of technical background.
And I know I was surprised by this. Were you surprised by how positive the community was in giving us feedback?
Oh, absolutely. So initially, when we started this project, we were forewarned that the open source community is a lot of voices and strong opinions. And so we cautiously approached them, introduced ourselves on their forums, and they were surprisingly positive and supportive and gave us constructive feedback throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, they were really helpful. So now we're going to unveil the newly redesigned Project Jupyter website. So here it is.
Wow, that looks like the best website I've ever seen.
So if you'll remember, what we were asked to do was to highlight Jupyter's technology, community, and open source values. And you can see that we've woven those three things into the top of our homepage design. So compute together is the new tagline that we came up with, and that conveys Jupyter's technology and community. And we have a big headline here that says free and open source. We also wanted to highlight what you can do with Jupyter tools, not just the tools themselves. And you'll see we have a lot of great illustrations on the website. Graham, you want to talk about those?
Yeah, we had the phenomenal opportunity to work with a really talented illustrator. Jupyter had existing branding that really focused on the planet Jupyter itself and its moons as kind of this metaphor for a core kind of central idea and all of the pieces that make that ecosystem possible. So this illustrator was able to take that idea and then expand it to this kind of more space theme, really bold graphics, tons of white space to really lighten up the content-heavy website, and they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. So when it comes to Jupyter technology, a key theme that emerged from our user research was that Jupyter tools are the gold standard in the industry. They are very prestigious. So obviously, that was something that we wanted to make sure was conveyed to new users. But also, I talked to a current user who kind of jokingly said, some people just think I'm a second-rate software engineer. So I wanted that user, when he comes to this new website, to feel pride in being a Jupyter user. Obviously, we wanted to highlight the importance of the community, but Omar, why is that important for users?
Well, the building block of this community are contributors who actually make Jupyter what it is. They create the tools, the algorithms, all the tools that people can use and combine. So by them not feeling appreciated, it was necessary to create a space for them to showcase their efforts to the rest of the community and feel value.
Yeah. And finally, we spoke with a couple users who identified as open source advocates, that they really felt like when things like science and policy and business are done more openly and transparently, that the world we live in will be a better place. And so we really wanted to emphasize that there is this overarching vision and mission driving everything that Jupyter does, and we wanted users to evangelize that. So I'm just going to quickly walk through some of our landing pages. This is the About page, where we talk about the history of Jupyter, its leadership, partner organizations. And I'm going to have Daniel walk us through our technologies page.
Yeah, so one of the issues we experienced with the old site was that it only featured 2 to 3 products on the home page, and actually Jupyter consists of hundreds of tools and customizations. So we wanted to feature that on the technologies page in one space, so one page for the entire ecosystem. How did we do that? We featured the most popular tools that were being downloaded by website visitors.
That they're going to come to the website looking for.
Absolutely. And then during a user interview, we actually started to get a piece of Jupyter to see that it was actually a group of interchangeable parts, similar to Lego blocks. So you can customize your Jupyter experience with your favorite coding language. You can set up a server for just yourself or for thousands of other users. So you can customize it to your taste. And the pivot table is where all the tools and customizations are. And this reinforces the ability to customize your experience to whatever preference you want.
And this was one of the most well-received pieces of the website during user feedback. They really liked having everything all in one place. They thought it was really clear. We also have a page for all the documentation for all of Jupyter tools all in one place. We felt that was very important. And something else that users conveyed to us was the importance of having a centralized hub for everything community related. So all the latest news and events. And we also wanted to make sure that there was a clear pathway for new contributors to get started. So we only had time to build out a couple pages for some of the most popular Jupyter tools. It's going to be on the Jupyter community to build out the rest of the site and create new pages for the other Jupyter tools. So what we wanted to do was create a template page that they could follow when building out the rest of the site. So this is one of the most popular tools, the Jupyter Notebook. And what we've done is we've highlighted the benefits of using the tool, why you would use it, how to get started for new users, documentation that existing users might need, another emphasis that it is a team of people that builds and maintains this tool. So if you are using it, get involved, help improve it not only for others, but for yourself. And then finally, here are all the other tools and extensions that are part of the Jupyter ecosystem that can help customize and improve your workflow with this particular tool. So we also provided a style guide and design system to the community so that that will help them build out the rest of the site. So Graham, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we keep mentioning open source, and part of the challenge in creating a design system for that is we're not the only ones designing. This design system has to be usable and understandable by thousands of people throughout the project, whether it's the 6 months we worked on it or in the years in the future. In order to do that, we created a huge library of design components and then created a design style guide that points out each component, how you use it, and what the exact specifications are for it. That way you can approach this design system as a developer, as a designer. If you need to replicate things or move on to a new product, you know exactly how to do that and where to do it.
We also provided them with a set of editorial guidelines so that when they go about writing the content for these new pages, they can maintain a consistent tone and voice throughout. All right, so our key takeaways. Daniel, what was your biggest takeaway from this project?
Research never, ever stops. Talking to one of the co-founders of Jupyter, getting his input on what the community was like, what the project was like, was eye-opening. But we also had to talk to developers to get other insights about what Jupyter was. Actually, talking to the developer gave us the insight of interchangeable blocks. So talking to everybody, researching, doing usability testing and interviews during our prototyping phase was crucial.
Graham, what about you? Biggest takeaway?
Yeah, process is an absolute must. We were able to create a process that we could stick to, but also mold here and there if we needed to flex in any other way. And that was a huge a factor in delivering not only on time, but what the client and what the community wanted. And with 1,000 or more voices in that process, you have to be able to stick to it.
Omar, final key takeaway.
Well, for me was, I have two big takeaways. The first one is the conversation with users and customers is not a one-time thing, but it's an ongoing effort. It requires skills to understand what the customers' wants and needs are, and it requires skills to actually extract from that data what's really going to be meaningful for the product or the project we are working on. That's the big one. But the last one, it's about this team. Working with this group here has been an amazing experience. These type of projects require to have a thick skin. It requires to put your best foot and your best ideas forward and then see them being trashed by your by your team. And but new and better ideas emerge from those. And seeing the humility and seeing the ability to build upon other people's ideas. And I think I can and we can extend this to the whole C3 group. I think we set the bar very high for C4. But that's the greatest takeaway, because as it was said before, this is about humans. You know, all the technology is really to help us humans connect better. So that's how real, effective, good user experience really happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar.
Thank you.
Have Tim come on up. Thank you for your engagement with these wonderful folks. Oh, I got to do now we got a whole thing happening. All right. So if I could have all of the student presenters who just did all of this amazing work stand for a moment. I just want to, no, don't go anywhere, just stand. You know, a whole year with me and they still can't follow directions. Let's give a big round of applause to all of these amazing students. They're really, they got it. Throwing me off. They're little assholes, I hate them. Okay, so, can I get my mic really loud? Okay, I love the enthusiasm, but the program's not done. Okay. So if I could have you all go back, except for one representative from each team. If you could, one rep from each team, please stay up here. Everyone else, please go sit down. I'll let you decide, battle it out amongst yourselves. Who from each team? All right, I should have 8 people. We're missing someone. There we go. Okay. So we do have some time slotted in here at the end, and what I really wanted you to do is see the whole breadth of these amazing things that everyone has done before we start asking them questions, because it may well be that now you've seen them all together, there may be things that have come up for you that actually go across some of these great projects. So I do want to open it to the floor. I will run around with one of these mics. Because we are recording these sessions, so if you don't speak into the mic, we will not hear your question. We will just hear the answer. So it'd be great if we can use this. So, questions? Come on. There we go. I knew we'd have one.
Right, so this is for all of you. Knowing now, having finished, what would you have done differently?
Yes.
Virtual happy hours.
More sleep.
I think taking as many opportunities to meet each other in person, if we're in the same city as possible, is really important in building relationships with each other.
Yeah, I would definitely say more team building would be.
More deep breaths. Inhaling, holding, exhaling, that definitely helps.
Self-care. Like, I don't remember the last time I've slept, so that.
I think more sharing and collaboration of projects early in the process. We did that a little bit, but we learned so much from each other, and so I encourage C4 to share your ideas with each other early as you're working on them.
To echo everyone else, and also be okay with not being perfect. This year, things are going to have to go, and you just have to accept that things are going to go. You might not go to the gym, you might not be able to cook anymore, you might not be watching Netflix, but it's okay. It's done in a year. Hallelujah.
All right, do we have more questions for them? Yeah. This is tricky. This is one of our clients.
Okay, a couple of questions. The first one would be, what would your advice be for the incoming cohort?
If you're not a developer, make friends with developers now.
That's good advice just for life, actually.
Yeah. In general, trying to make friends with people that are a different discipline than your own, because everyone is really generous, at least our cohort was, with helping each other out and bringing each other up. You're only as good as your weakest link. So everyone is in this together. Everyone needs to be friends and share and collaborate.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Everyone in this program struggles. Share your struggles. I mean, misery does love company, but it's good to know that everybody's struggling with you. They have your back. Just be supportive of each other and get here in a year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't be afraid to reach out to your professors and other people in your cohort if you need feedback or need advice on anything.
Yeah, I would say be open to criticism. Everyone in this program is more than happy to share their opinion, but don't take it too personally. As designers and people that work in this space, you really have to have a thick skin and be able to translate that into something constructive.
Don't procrastinate.
Also, good life advice. I feel like we're getting a lot of good life advice. All right, we have time for one more question. Oh, Tim, I don't know if I want to give you the mic. This makes me nervous.
I saw a lot of talk about process. How did you guys choose which processes you were going to use, and how did you differentiate between what you thought would be a good or a bad or good or better process?
So for Hulu, we actually had to ship a product, so we followed the double diamond model, knowing that there's a delivery section for that.
For our project, we initially thought it was potentially just going to be a research project. So although we were following the double diamond model, we didn't initially think we would get to as high of a fidelity prototype as we did. But at the halfway point, we were able to reassess the progress and kind of the feedback from our users and get to create that prototype a little more quickly. And I was really happy with the end product in the end.
For our project specifically, talking to the hospital business analysts and the doctors and the patients for us was like really key in understanding what we needed to do next and scoping our project. So that was for us that's how we figured it out.
And we used basically the same double diamond model as everyone else, but specifically within that, we used a variety of methods to do qualitative research, like one-on-one interviews, contextual inquiry, and that's because we already knew that there was a problem. We already had quantitative data showing that there was an issue with that, but understanding what's really going on and what's important to your users drove those three specific methods that we used.
We also use the double diamond, and one of the reasons for that is it's so tempting to just jump into solutioning and design, and the double diamond, because it has the 4 phases where it emphasizes qualitative research in the beginning, it really, defines a space to do that before you just jump into solutions.
I'm going to talk less about process on that scale and talk more about how we worked as a group. And we were a small team of 3, and we found that we work best with collaborating. So we had long 3-hour sessions twice a week where we were on the phone, Skyping or Slacking, and would do as much as we could on cloud-based technology so that we all could collaborate together. And I thought that was very helpful. And whenever we went off the rails or when we didn't collaborate as much as when things went off the rails. So.
Yeah, so to echo what everyone else said, we had a very similar type of double diamond process, but we started with the client's needs specifically. So we knew that our client in particular had limited resources, but a lot of access to great stuff like students and teachers to test things with. So we wanted to make sure that we delivered something that was ready to pass on to a development team, and also all of those different assets and marketing pieces to help them get funding. So we were very focused the entire time on how do we get funding for this project for our client.
For our team, something a little more hands-on. It was really design, research, and then design. But also we had a Gantt chart that basically laid out the project, and then basically I could see where we were in the process, and if something needed more attention, people would jump on and help out and help move the process forward so that we can get to the next stage. So it's just something a little more practical.
All right, thank you, everyone. So it is now my absolute pleasure to introduce all of you to my personal branding guru, a man named Ryan Foland, who we have been fortunate enough to recruit here to UCI. He has been in Forbes, in Inc. magazine, in the Huffington Post. He has spoken at TED, both here at UCI and other TED programs all over. And he's really just an excellent understander of the human condition. And he's going to talk to you about UX and the experience that your customers have with you, in addition to the great things that we've seen about the experience customers might have with products. So thank you, Ryan, so much for closing out our program here this afternoon. And let's give him a round of applause.
Lesson number 1, always film yourself because no one else will. And lesson number 2, if you don't have the right gear, go to Office Depot, get something that will work. We have a dashboard with duct tape, which is, yeah, if we're talking about understanding the human condition, duct tape is where it's at. Okay, into the matrix.
Whoa, never seen that before.
How's everybody doing? Did you see Peter back here? Did everybody say hi to Peter? He doesn't understand English, but he understands this language called Zot. How about we give him a powerful 3 on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3. Zot, Zot, Zot. That was like, these guys, do you know what a Zot is? Are we confused? So a Zot is it's the actual sound when the ferocity happens of attacking a feeble little ant. It's a microscopic, only heard by dogs and pigs, but we have discovered that here at UCI. He knows this, so the word Zot is so small that you have to say it 3 times and very loud. So we'll try this again. Peter, would you come up here? I don't think they want to look backwards. Give him a round of applause as he comes up here. This is the man, the myth, the legend. All right, thank you for helping me stall with this tech. Not for me, not for you, but for him, Zot on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Zot, Zot, Zot. All right, good job, buddy. Or any pronoun that works, right? This is okay. We got you, Peter. Now, I want to make sure that you are not only listening, but have the ability to clap, because think of me as your clap conductor. I'm the captain of your clapping. And I want to make sure that you can not only do it physically, but that you actually have rhythm. So I'm going to clap, and then you're just going to repeat. Now, we're just going to try 1, and then we'll try 2. We'll get crazy. So you repeat. I'll clap. There will be a pause, and you do it. Ready? Wait. See, we need some work. Let's do this with 1. Ready? Okay. Now there's going to be a rhythm. It's going to be like 1, 2. So it's going to be, well, it's going to be like 1, 2, beat, and then on to you. Ready? I do it first, then you follow. What kind of students are they? Okay, we're getting there. If you do want to follow live with the interactions, social is a real thing. So if you do want to take a picture of that and tag and share, it just helps take this information, put it out there. We're going to try clapping again. You, I'm watching you. I'm going to do it, then you do it. Okay, this is good. Well, I just did 2. Why'd you get 3? Gosh, engineers. I'm really excited today because I'm going to share with you some history and a modern form of history, and then how you can make history. Now, when we talk about UX, I just couldn't help but think to myself, Y-O-U-X. And if you've ever heard of the cobbler that has no shoes, there's engineers that have no computers, right? We tend to work on our projects, but not on ourselves. And so today, we're going to learn a little bit about the history of UX and then how that applies to you so you can actually figure out what you want to do. UX is fill in the blank. That was the obvious answer. We want to go deeper. We want to, like, what if I saw these 2 letters and I was an anteater and had no concept of the English language, what is UX aside from the literal translation? Satisfaction, okay. What else? Reflection. Accomplishing your goals, okay. What else? Let's get 2 more. Care. Behavior. I like how he says that as well. How many people know who this guy is? I don't know that. Not Aristotle. Come on, nobody knows this? He's a Roman. No. He was actually documented as one of the first people to outline the definition of user design. In the form of design, he was an architect. He has a very famous book. I am Vitruvius, and I am a Roman, and I wrote about design. And in fact, this is my magnum opus. In it, he was one of the first people to start talking about design. He had some crazy buildings that he built, including, well, that's the name of it, the De Architectura. It's one of the first early documentations, really, of design, and that's where it all is rooted. And this is one of his cathedrals. I think this is amazing. This is, if you look at it from a user design standpoint, it's pretty sexy. And there are the theatrical people on the bottom going, ha-ha, I'm here. But at the end of the day, design is not new. It's been around since people are organizing rocks in the cave, I would imagine. Don't trip over that one. That's a bad UX. Now, he had described 3 main things when it comes to design. First is durability. I didn't hear anybody say that. Would we agree, yes or no? Okay, we'll get an audible yes or no. Agree, yes or no? It's the end of the day. I'm making sure you're with me here. It's a concept of how we can make the experience smooth and easy. And that is durability, that there is a life to it. Another concept is usefulness. Nobody said usefulness, you said behavior. Do we agree that usefulness is a big part of UX design? Yes or no? Usefulness is that you actually have to have a product that solves a problem. Because if you have a product for the sake of product, people won't care. How many people know about products that are just made for the sake of products and you don't care about them? 3 people, everyone else lies. And finally, aesthetics. Surprisingly, nobody talked about aesthetics. You know what I'm talking about. But essentially, this is the concept that it's not just about what the product looks like. It's about your perception of the product before you see it. It's about the perception of opening up that box and your relationship with it. It's about what it looks like up on the shelf after you've had it for a few months and the novelty is worn off. So UX design happens well before the product even is in the person's mind. So what does UX have to do with YOUX? It has everything to do with it. Now, who's this guy? What's his name? Okay, he's not a Roman. He's a ginger. Okay? Now, does anybody recognize this piece of literature? It's my book. Right? I didn't write about architecture, but I worked on the concept of a new type of UX, the YOUX. I might have just named it YOUX. Now I put, for a brand halo, Vitrosticus in the background, right? It looks good there. A little different, but still illustrated. I'm documenting what I see from a design standpoint of view as a product. Now we're going to get into the weeds, and we're going to basically channel our Romanness, our gingerness, and we will find out a plan for you as you step out into the future. How many people are getting ready to go into the job market? Are we getting there? How many people are really, really excited? How many people are actually scared out of their minds? How many are liars? There's nothing scarier than launching into the real world where you don't have the comfort of amazing people that are going to bring you along. Well, we can fix that. I didn't build a cathedral, but I built a website. How many people have a website? How many people don't have a website? A website is your modern-day cathedral. This is your architecture, what you can do with it. So how many people in here have a personal brand? Raise your hand if you have a brand. Okay. Interesting. Actually, put your hands up and look around, because no one's raising their hand. Fact check, everyone has a personal brand. Think about that. It's what people are actually thinking about you when you're maybe not there. It's how somebody describes you. If you don't believe that you have a personal brand, all it means is that you're just not taking an active role in the narrative. Think about that. If you're not participating, somebody else is deciding for you how you're seen out there in the world. And your brand is as simple as who you are. And the nice thing is, aside from all the pressure that you feel or see around you, you don't have to be anybody but yourself. So let's talk UX. We're going to talk about durability and how that relates to authenticity. We're going to talk about usefulness and how that relates to solving a problem. And finally, we're going to talk about aesthetics, about the concept of branding and having a visual guideline to how people see you, think about you, find you, and recognize you. Durability is authenticity. Authenticity is the new black. How many people have heard the word authenticity in a way that maybe you feel it's used over much over as like a buzzword? Raise your hand. How many of you are sick of hearing about authenticity? Okay, well, let's talk about it then. Authenticity is how you share not only your expertise, but your experience in a way that people can relate to you. I'm going to say that again. Authenticity is just sharing your expertise and your experience in a way that people can relate to you. And there's a lot of things that we're not sure what to share or not, and we typically tend to only share the good. So the book that I wrote, the concept that I think is worth building, is this concept of ditching the act and just trying to be yourself more often. Now, what does this mean? In life, there's good and there's bad. And then the reality is right there in the middle. How many people had a good week this week? Okay, how many people had something that went wrong this week, whether or not it was good? Okay, how many people have big or small problems every once in a while? How many people have lost their iPods? I want to know, because that happened to me twice. Dude, it's frustrating, right? So the concept is that as we go to share on our social channels, we typically go to one polar opposite or the other. Oh my God, I'm so happy, I'm going to announce it to the world. Or I'm so frustrated, I'm mad at the world, I'm just going to let all my anger out as a customer service, modernized customer service. But the reality right there in the middle, a lot of us are missing. We're not sharing that reality because that reality is your reality. It's not what everybody else is doing. And that reality is essentially your brand. So when you think about it, if your brand is who you are, but half of the people, if not 3/4 of the people in the room, don't believe they have a brand, do you even know that you exist? You have to think about how other people see you as you step into the world. You have to own your whole story. And there are things in here, secrets, that I know that you're hiding. Things that you feel that if you share, people will judge you. People won't take you as seriously. They will look down upon you. But the exact opposite is true. Think about your friends and family, the people that you go to when something goes wrong. And you tell them that something goes wrong, what do? They listen, they empathize, they hug you, they let you cry. They're there for you. Yet we still have this tendency to not want to share any of that with other people outside of our close little network. So at the end of the day, this is a business nomenclature that holds true for branding. People have to first get to know you so that they can like you, so that they can ultimately trust you. But how do you get people to know you if you're holding back what you should be sharing? You have to put yourself out there. How many people here are on that thing called social media? How many people are still kind of trying to figure it out? Oh, we have some confident Instagrammers. There's a big part of overcoming fear in sharing. And the challenge is that if you are only sharing these good moments, it's very difficult to get the courage to share when things go wrong, because you're so used to only sharing the good. And if you go on Instagram for about 5 minutes, it makes you feel 5 times worse about yourself. You realize that you haven't taken a vacation soon. You realize everybody's super happy. Everybody looks better than you do. And you actually just continue to scroll. And it's just like misery upon misery. And you like it just to think that you like it. But really, you're like, that hurts. That hurts. God, I want to sailboat that looks like that. Oh my gosh, that looks fun. And then it's like 30 minutes later. Then you feel bad for wasting part of your life. It's like this weird endless cycle, right? But there is a way to baby step the exposure. We call this your expose yourself process. And I'm going to share with you how this works. We break it down into 5 different levels of exposure. And again, it may seem ironic. How is somebody writing a book about being authentic? It's a book about a way to tap into your own authenticity, which is there, you are just too afraid to share. So level 1 exposures are stupid, silly things that you do or that you don't share with people. Things like spilling water on yourself. Things like losing your AirPods. Things that you would not think to share. But those are the exact things that as you start to share, people get to know who you are. Because everyone has those same sort of challenges. Random thoughts that you might have that never see the light of day, there are millions of other people that have the same random thoughts that would love to join in that conversation. I ate 3/4 of a cookie the other day, and it made my stomach hurt. And I looked at that last little 1/4, and I was like, should I eat it or not? My stomach hurts, but it looked so good. It was a double chocolate on chocolate. I'm like, this is good. This is the conversation I'm having in my head, so I tweeted it. And you wouldn't believe the support, the response, and so many people identifying with, wait a minute, you didn't finish the cookie? Who cares if your stomach hurts? Eat it, throw it, eat it, toss it. Team eat the cookie, team not eat the cookie, Cookie Monster gifts, all kinds of stuff about cookies. At the end of the day, I tossed the cookie. And I made a video about why. It's because you don't have to eat the whole cookie. And you can ask for advice, and you can still not take the advice. And then I went and I had chips and salsa instead. It was good. Okay? But by doing that, people actually get to know me a little bit. And as people get to know me, then they might like me, and then they might trust me. And in the real world, you have to build trust. But you can't download trust. And we forget that sometimes. So here's a couple examples. I talked about the earbuds that were lost. What do you do if you lose something of value? You left your AirPods and the charger case, and it is totally your fault. I'm not sure whether to go buy another set or feel bad or mad or angry. I'm honestly torn. I'm angry, but I don't really want to feel this way. 122 people chirped in on that conversation. I can't remember the last time I had a conversation with 122 people. But these are people that have lost things, that empathized, that cheered me up, that told me to move along. And you know what? In the airport, I saw one of those Best Buy machines, and I've never bought anything from it. And I walked by and I went, oh my God, there's the AirPods. So I went live on Periscope and I shared the whole experience, and I was joined by like 5,000 people celebrating me getting over a loss, which helped it me more cathartic. And it's just like, it's fun, it's there. But before, I would never admit if I lost anything. That might make me look less than. How many people here have lost something legitimately? You, all of it, we're together. We're in this. I had a big keynote in front of about 1,000 people, and it was in Santa Barbara in this huge stage, huge 40, 50 foot, all like this, but crazy style. And about 30 minutes beforehand, I had a pimple that was crowning my forehead. And I was freaking out. Freaking out. Do I pop it or not? That's the big question. So I texted a good friend of mine, and he's like, why would you ask me? This is a great opportunity to actually show that you're human and share it. So I tweeted it out, and this is what I did. I basically said, I have this big pimple. I'm not sure what to do about it. Now, granted, this is a 4-day conference, and I'm very active on Twitter. I was the most engaged Twitter participant over the 4 days with 1,000 people there, and of all of the hundreds of tweets, this single tweet outperformed every single tweet on the entire conference from 4 days. There was team pop it, team not pop it, team this, team that, everybody whatever. Not only did somebody find me at the conference and gave me concealer, afterwards, one of the video guys, a 4-camera video shoot, he came up afterwards, he's like, you know what, I saw your tweet, I told the whole team we put a certain filter on, nobody even saw it. I'm like, oh my God. So we look for engagement on social media, we look for likes, we look for retweets, we look for these things of validation, but the validation is right there. It's just in front of you, and it might happen to be the thing that you don't think to share. It's when you ditch the act that lets people actually understand that they can care about it. So this is what I'm going for. I got this tweet the other day. Ryan, I've been following you on Twitter for a while now, and I'm truly inspired by your tweets and the content. I feel like I know you. I feel like we're friends in kind of a way. That's pretty cool. There's so much negativity, and you might think Twitter, and you might think trolls, and you might think, pfft. But at the end of the day, there are real people behind there that want to connect with other real people. And I don't know about you, but as a grown adult who has a job, who has a side hustle on the side hustle, and speaks around the world, I don't have time for friends. But I have time to build a community online, and it's a very amazing thing. I tell people, don't judge me by my followers. Judge me by people who are willing to help me when I need help. But if I never say that I need help, how do they know to help? How do they know to connect? I'm just some other person out there. Level 2, and we're not going to get into this too far. So level 1 are all these little silly things. And if you think about text messages to your good friends, you're probably sharing with them when you're not feeling well. You're probably sharing them the first world problems that you're having because you know you're not going to get blasted. But those are the type of level 1 conversations to have. It's so hard to go first, but everybody wants to go second. Have you ever been in the office or a lab environment, and Jillian walks in and she goes, hi, everybody, how's it doing? How was it? Was your weekend good? Good, good. And everyone's like, oh, it was good. It was great. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Okay, good. All right, see you later. That happens all day, every day, from labs to corporate America. You know why? Because nobody was brave enough to go first. Let's replay. Hey, everybody, how's it going? How are you doing? I go, good, good, good. Oh, you. And he says, you know what? I really didn't sleep well last night. I don't know what's up. Maybe it's like the Mercury in retrograde or something, but like I'm tired. And the next person goes, you too? Oh my gosh, I've been having a hard time sleeping for like 2 weeks. And this guy who initially said he was all right is back to be like, well, you know what? You should do this and this because it helps over this. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is great. Oh, okay, well, you know, if you need to leave home a little bit early today, that's fine because I want you to get some sleep. And everybody else, take his advice to make sure you get good sleep. All right, great, good. You see the difference there? Don't be afraid to be the person in your work or lab environment to actually tell people how you're feeling. Because if you have something that's going wrong in life or you have something that's going on wrong in a relationship, it will affect you. It will affect your day. It will affect your performance. And if you don't communicate that with your boss or your PI, how do they know that you're just not doing your job well? The more you open up to the people that you work with, the more that you open up to your team, the more you'll create a bond within that team. And I love my boss. Like, I walk in and tell him when things are not going right. He gives me the space, and I work that much harder for him. Now, that's just level 1. Level 2 is a little bit harder to share. It's challenges that you have with relationships with other people. How many people have had a challenge with another person? Okay, you didn't raise your hand? You're looking at something else. These are stressors in our lives. These are things that happen, but whenever you have a conversation with somebody about a challenge you've had with somebody else, they can relate to that. Now, level 3 gets a little bit more serious. There are things that you're not proud of. There are things that maybe you're trying to cover up. But as soon as you get in front of that, no one can hold it against you. Level 4 is that business failure that you had that you are not proud of, that relationship that totally went wrong, the divorce that happened that you wish nobody knew about. These are big things that you are hiding. We all have skeletons in our closet. But as long as they're in your closet, somebody can hold them against you. And if you work up and you let people know the small, silly stuff that you do, they're there for you. Then you talk about how sometimes you also are challenged with relationships, and then they're there with you. And then you share some of the failures that you have as you become braver, and then they respect you for that. And then when you share with them some of these things that you just did not want to share, they know that that is your experience, which adds to your expertise, and you are actually more respected because of it. Now, level 5, these are things not to share. Ego, politics, religion, sex, deep pics, all that stuff, okay? The reality is that sharing can go too far because you can polarize your audience. So it's not about just going crazy and just losing it in front of everyone, but it's about being aware that the things that you are afraid to share are the exact things that will find you your next best friend. It's the exact thing that will build a relationship within a startup team that actually makes them stay together. You know how many business partners break up? It's because they're most likely not super honest with each other along the entire way. And the conversation goes like this. Yeah, I'm done. What do you mean you're done? I've been pissed off for the last 6 months, but I haven't told you about it. If you would have taught me 6 months ago, we could have worked through this. So it's your relationships, it's your community online. All of these things will increase as you start to take the veil off and ditch that act. If you can start through these baby step processes, you can actually get people to get to know you, like you, and trust you. And the nice thing about this is that you don't have to try to be like someone else, you only have to be you. So here is the deal, let me give it to you real. The key to connection is to learn to reveal. You see, you are not perfect, and neither am I. And that is why we can see right eye to eye. Everybody's different, but we are all the same. To be perfectly imperfect is how you win the game. If you only showcase good and do not share the bad, you will miss connections that you never knew you had. Okay. Your success is half of your story. If you're in an interview and you're trying to get your job and they're saying, tell me how amazing you are. If you can also position some of the unamazing stuff in there and how you've learned from it, you will probably be the better applicant. Do you think that somebody wants to hire somebody that always has straight A's? Okay, I know what you've been told. Now imagine the student that had C's and worked through their adversity to get the A's. In the real world, the employee who has a history of struggling and overcoming failure and working through defeat and going from C's to B's to A's has more resilience. I know you with all of the A's all the time. You have it down. You know what to do. But when you get an A-, you freak out. When you get a B, you go crazy. When you get a C, you argue in office hours for that 1 point just to get a little bit more because you can't stand that you didn't get an A. But the idea here is that an A student across the board these days is not as valuable as somebody who can truly show that they've overcome adversity. So if you just look at success as your whole story, you're missing half of it. How can you position what has gone wrong in a way that actually differentiates you from everyone else on the market? You know, from somebody who's interviewed and hired hundreds of people, everyone ends up looking the exact same. You're like, good, hey, baby. Like, okay. It's the one person that stands out and is actually real that stands out. So good job on getting all A's, because I know that was emotionally hard for you because you've spent all these years. But it's not about all A's, it's about the process. Success is half of your story. Let's talk about usefulness. Solving a problem. We identified, aside from the liars in the room, that we've all had a big or a small problem, correct? Now, if your product doesn't save a problem, it's useless. And I'm going to go so far to say that if you don't solve a problem, you're useless. What a jerk, right? In fact, I will go so far as to say that no one cares what you do. No one cares what you do. They don't even care what you do. No one cares what you do. You've been lied to your entire life. You go to a networking event, or maybe there's networking afterwards, and here's what's going to happen. So, what do you do? But secretly, you don't care what they do because you're asking them what they do, so they tell you what they do, but you're not really listening because you're waiting for your response because when they're done, you hope that they ask you what you do so you can tell them what you do in hopes that they will care what you do, but they don't even care what you do. That's exactly what happens. People care more about the problem that you solve. Now, I want to take a vote. This is not just the Ryan show. This is the us show. I want you to vote, and everyone has to vote. Okay? Everyone has to vote. It's either that you agree people care more about what you do, or people care more about the problem that you solve. Those are your two options. Think about it. Do people care more about what you do or the problem that you solve? Raise your hand if you think people care more about what you do. Raise your hand if you think people care more about the problem that you solve. I agree. We should talk. Now, as you leave school, the one thing you can be is a good problem solver. But I bet you are not very good at articulating the problem that you solve. And this is what I do all day long. I've got this thing called the 313 that solves this problem. I help people and their businesses and entrepreneurs and executives communicate what they do in 3 sentences, 1 sentence, and 3 words. It's crazy. But we're not doing that today. We are going to work on the first step, and that is the problem. You agreed with me that the problem is more important than what you do. Therefore, it is absolutely, fundamentally, crucially important for you to be able to explain the problem that you solve without mentioning what you do. Think about that. If nobody cares what you do, and the problem is what matters, it's super important to be able to communicate the problem that you solve without even telling them what you do. Who wants to tell me the problem that they solve right now without telling me what they do? Okay, real quick. How many people actually solve problems? Okay, sir, tell me the problem that you solve, or a problem that you solve, or a problem that you want to solve, in 1 sentence without telling me anything about what you do. Whoa, you see what happened? What did he do? He started telling me what he does. I programmatically connect. That's what you do, right? It is in our blood. We always just default to what we do. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but you started telling me what you do. Who else wants to try? Come on, you are brave. You're going out there into the world. Yes, man. In the back. Tell me the problem you solve, but don't tell me what you do, otherwise you'll get a burnt. And I have a whole bag of burnt, your name on it. Burnt. Help users. That's what you do, okay? Come on, somebody on this side. Yes, sir. Burnt. I make things easier. I don't care what you do. You, sir. Not a complete sentence. Not a complete sentence. You. Do we agree that's a problem? Yes or no? Okay? On a scale of 1 to 10, take your hands, and I want you to vote. 10 is, wow, that is the craziest problem I've ever heard. And 1 is like, I'm not sure. So on the, ready? 1, 2, 3, show with your hands. Okay? You almost got 10 across the board. Very cool. Do you see the difference? Now, what if I could share with you that if you can tell me the problem that you solve in 1 sentence without telling me what you do, that single fact, I could get people interested in what you do without you telling them what you do. Would you be interested? If I could teach you how to get people interested in what you do without even telling them what you do, are you interested? Audible 1, 2, 3. It's not my password, I promise. People only care about the problem that you solve. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is permission-based pitching. Gosh, I can talk about this all day. Work with me here. All right, so we have your, yes, hiding over here. No, we can use your example or whoever else. This is a system that works. It's a proven system that works to get people interested in what you do without even telling them what you do. The point here is that part of your YOUX part of this concept, part of the big three that started back in the Roman era, is that you have to solve a problem. You are your own product. So, you tell people, this is a problem that I solve. But it goes something like this. Somebody asked me what I do. Funny you ask. I do a lot of stuff, but it's actually not as important as the problem that I solve. And then if you shut your mouth, the next question will be, what problem do you solve? I'm so glad that you asked. Now I'm going to tell him the problem, that people don't have access to technology. What was it again? People with disabilities don't have access to technologies like they should. Do you agree that that's a problem? Okay? Do you have this problem? Do you have any friends that have this problem? Do you know if they're looking to solve it anytime soon? Okay. Nice to meet you. It's perfectly all right. Do you see what happened there? I didn't talk past the sale. We're sort of done. That's cool. Now, if he had that problem, and if he was looking to solve that sometime soon, I could help you out. Or I could help your friend out. Let's use one more example. Come on, they got a problem over here. Tell me the problem you solve in one sentence. Yes, sir. So when a user's site is not accessible, what happens in the real world? Like, what's the pain behind it? Okay, when a user can't access your site, everything that you've been working for is potentially gone. Okay? So I have a question. We'll all play together. And you have to state that one more time. So the problem is, listen to him real quick. So when a user is unable to access your site, your whole business goes down the drain, all of your college funding is useless, and you will die a miserable death under your chair. Right? We've got to make it a little bit more powerful, okay? Do we agree if this is a problem? Yes or no? If I heard a no, you'd have to figure out how to rephrase that problem. You're phrasing the problem in a way that it's either yes or no. There's no maybe. So now, how many people in here have had that problem of not being able to access one of the sites? Have you? If you say yes. If you have, say yes. Okay. Now, is this something that you would like to know how to solve? Yes or no? I can help you out. I can totally help you out. Well, he can help me out because I'm pretending to be him. But do you see what just happened there? I have not explained anything. I don't even know you or what you do. But everybody that said yes, you can help them out. If you cannot articulate the problem that YOU that you solve, then you're just going to be telling people what you do and they aren't going to care about it. Does that make sense? It's actually fascinating. The next time that you're in a networking situation and somebody asks you, so what is it that you do? This will be awkward for you. And you'll say, well, it's not really what I do that's important. It's the problem that I solve. Stop talking. That's going to be awkward for you too. Then they're going to go, but what is the problem? Well, state the problem. Do you think that's a problem? Yeah. Is that a problem you have? No. Does your friend have that? Yeah. Are they looking to fix it anytime soon? I don't know. Well, if he does or she does, I can help out. Wait, what do you do? You're fighting for attention in the real world. And if you can't articulate the problem that you solve, then your UX is not fully designed yet. This is a very powerful way to meet people and get them interested in what you're doing. And the best way to practice, how many people take Uber or Lyfts? That's your practice ground. Because you know what they do? Hey, hi, how's it going? What do you do? You tell them, it's kind of funny, man, but it's not really what I do that matters. It's the problem that I solve. Hey, man, what problem do you solve? You tell them the problem. My God, I run out of cards in Ubers. It's just, you can walk them through this, okay? It's a very perfect, imperfect science, and you're getting people's permission the entire way. If you can state the problem in one sentence without telling people what you do, you can get people interested in what you do without telling them what you do, which is pretty exciting. Let's talk about aesthetics and branding. Now, branding is about this concern that happens both before and after they meet you. How many people looked at the program and saw who was speaking today? Anybody? Did anybody Google me? Okay, okay. People are going to try to find out about you before you even know they exist. That is the reality that we're in. So as a YOUX design, if you're just focused on what you're wearing right now, but less concerned about what somebody finds you wearing online, then you need to think about that whole user experience. You are your headshot. This is the reality. If you have a cropped headshot, when you obviously someone else is in the picture, or you're frowning, or it's unprofessional, or it's pixelated, or it's weirdly cropped, then you're weirdly cropped. People will judge you on it. How many people feel like they have a proud professional headshot that they are proud of? Okay, from the last, some people have headshots from like 10 years ago. I'm not going to say who, okay? But you laugh because it's kind of awkward, because that's not really them. So as you step out there into the world, your UX design, treat yourself like a project, get a professional headshot. And I know there's a lot of opportunities to get them for free, so take people up on that. Also, perception is reality. When somebody looks at your social profile, they probably see the biggest thing, which is your background image. How many people on LinkedIn just still have the little blue dots that are doing the dot thing? There is an opportunity for you to brand yourself. Sir, are you working on any project, or did you have a project or team that was going on? What was your project? Okay, like what does it look like? Okay, so imagine if I took that website and I put a big black cape over it. How'd you feel about that project as a consultant? Like when we show it to people, we say, here's a black cape over the computer. Look at how sexy this looks. I mean, you have to understand there's a lot of stuff behind. Like, I could tell you it's very user-friendly, but you just can't see it. Think of your project. Drape a black cloak over it. You might as well do that if your social profiles are lacking a background image. It is the image. It is the sleekness. It is the design. So if anything else, feel guilty and then go home and put something that represents who you are, because people will judge you by what they see. You have control over that. That's your control. Are you motivated to change it? Sure. We got a head nod back and forth. Sure. All right. But perception is reality. And if my perception of you, if I saw you on LinkedIn and I looked you up from a job position or something like that, if I just want to tease it out, I would look at that, and in an instant, I'd be like, this guy's totally not aware of his UX, and I'm moving on to somebody who's more aware. So you will be judged by your lack of background images. It's a reality. You are your website. How many people have a personal website? Okay. How many people wish they could buy a house right now? Okay. It's the same thing, but it's online. It's a land grab. It's a total land grab. Getyourname.com. If your name's taken, get yourname.online.com. There's all kinds of crazy stuff, but the only thing you own online is your own domain. That's it. You think you own Twitter? You don't own Twitter. You think you own your Instagram feed? You don't own that. You think you own LinkedIn? Maybe you don't think that you do, but you don't. That is a way to centralize. Okay, how many people put a pitch presentation together for their project? Okay? 3 people, great. We need to work on this. Imagine trying to pitch your product with nothing that people could see. Again, it's that same kind of concept. So I want to drill into your brain that your brand is what people can see and find of you. Keep the social in social media. It's not just about posting, it's about replying, it's about letting people get to know you, like you, and trust you. How many people love to write? How many people that had their hands up actually write blogs on a regular basis? See what happened there? When it comes to talent discovery, you can either write, you can either speak, you can either use images or audio. It's not about being all for all those things, it's about finding about what you enjoy, what you're good at, and then actually doing it. Do you know how many people I meet that love to write but don't blog? How many people that love to speak but don't make videos? It's a total opportunity that's missed if you want people to understand how you are, your user design. When it comes with videos, relax, because you are always on stage. Always. I mean, you're getting videotaped everywhere. We're pretty much used to it. So you shouldn't have that whole fear of getting in front of the camera. How many people here are public speakers, just by chance? Good. 3, 4, 5. Waving the phone a little bit. If you speak in public, then you are a public speaker. It's a scientific fact that you cannot argue either. How many people spoke in public today? All right, how many public speakers do we have? If you speak in public, then you are a public speaker. It's a scientific fact that you cannot argue either. Thoughts become words, words become things, so think the thoughts that you want. If somebody asks you if you're a public speaker and you say no, you will never be a public speaker. Because you thought about it, that created the word, you said it, you put it out there into the world, and that was the reality of it. We cut ourselves short all the time by using words that will set our reality. Thoughts become words, words become things, so think the thoughts that you want. If you're not a public speaker, you can say, oh, that's something that I'm working on, or that's something that maybe I'm trying to improve. You are your own worst enemy based on what you think you can do and not do. So public speaking is a great opportunity to sort of claim that word, or at least don't deny it. The thing that they don't teach you in college is soft skills, for the most part, and that's probably the most important when you get out there. UX design is how you design your personal brand. Now, people always ask me how to build a brand. I tell them the good news, that it's something that they have. It's the intersection of two very special things. It's what you want to be known for and what other people think. So when you build a brand, think about design. It's all about experience in someone else's mind. Facegram Twitter book, are you on LinkedIn? TikToking Snapchats trying to fit in? Stop worrying about everyone else. Focus on you and your authentic self. There's good, there's bad, there's up, there's down, there's left, there's right. That's life. But you can decide your own UX and tweak it till it's right. Then when you learn to ditch the act, you'll get just more than wealth. You'll be like Victor Truss. And you will build a legendary brand for yourself. Thank you, everyone.
So I have one really good piece of good news for our fourth cohort, the folks who just started. Ryan's awesome book is out in about 6 weeks, I think. He's running around, I don't know. He's coming back. I think it's out in about 6 weeks. We have pre-ordered them for all of you in our fourth cohort, so you will get a copy of that book.
Can you guys
for
help me
the
to pass these
rest
out
of you,
down the way?
I highly recommend you go on Amazon and pre-order it right now. So really great. Thank you.
Very cool. Round of applause for her supporting you like that. Now, for those who are not in the cohort that now have my book when it comes out, I am giving you one of the greatest pieces of technology known to humankind. There is no RDIF chip. There is no Bluetooth integration. It is a bookmark that when used and put in a place to hold your place, it will stay there and let you know where you left off. Talk about technology.
It's amazing.
You now have it.
What an incredible design. All right, we do have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions, not a ton, but I think Ryan will be around for a little bit. Does anyone have a question that they are wanting to ask?
And if you're curious how I stuck this for my forehead, if you lick it, you can stick it.
Any questions not related to sticking things to your body?
But this is good. Now you can take a picture and you can share this online. This is a form of ditching the act. But really, questions?
Questions?
How many people here are just a little bit more motivated to take a little bit more active role in building their personal brand? Okay, I'm going to end up with the same questions at the beginning. How many people here have a personal brand? Everyone except for these 4 people. Congratulations,
Well,
thank you very
they're the
much.
security people, so they hide, you know. Thank you again, Ryan. I want to let everyone know a few things. So first of all, I really mean it when I say Ryan has been my personal branding guru. He probably doesn't even know it. But over the last few years, as I've gotten to know him, I've really taken it very seriously what he says. And you really do all have a personal brand. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Next up, You will not come back to me, so I am going to let you be free. But in the sort of areas right around here, all of the projects that you saw this afternoon will have posters set up so you can go and talk to those folks more. We have food and beverages here as well. And probably the most important thing of the day, we have Peter the Anteater here. Woohoo! So you can take pictures with him, you can have fun with him. Please don't touch him inappropriately. Okay, so thank you all once again. Great afternoon. Have some drinks and celebrate.